right, well, you go ahead, do the intro. I did last time.
Oh, okay. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, friends, thems, whatnot, guys, gals, non-binary pals,
Gamers.
gamers. Welcome back to Two Broken Thumbs. We're here to talk about movies, as we generally are. And I'm pretty excited about this one. You probably heard about this one. It's a big old blockbuster that came out this holiday season a couple weeks ago. I saw it probably a week and a half ago now, and I think you saw it 2 days ago. We're going to be talking about
Correct.
Spiderman, the new one. What is it? No Way Home? Yeah.
Correct. No Way
No
Home.
Way Home. I'm very excited to chat about this one. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
I'm excited to see Spider-Man 4 Home Alone, where he has to set up booby traps
Right.
for a bunch of...
Against two villains that are attempting to break into his home.
his one-bedroom apartment.
Uh-huh. We're gonna see how many times they can reboot it too. It'll be great.
Yeah, I mean, I could go down that rabbit hole, but that's for episode 15.
Oh no.
Yeah, the new Spider-Man film. I went to go see it on New Year's with my good friend and friend of the podcast, Pat. And we both came out the theater definitely feeling like we saw a movie.
Yeah?
I think this is going to be the first time we both might disagree on something. I didn't like... It was the best Marvel film since Endgame, and that isn't saying a lot, seeing as the only other movie I saw was the other Spider-Man film, and I didn't like that one.
Fair enough.
So, for me, like, Spider-Man has always been, like, the Bechdel test for me of, like, if I'm going to be into Marvel anymore, and I've already been disappointed twice, so I don't... I guess I'm just, like, it's over for me.
Twice? You didn't like Homecoming?
No. I liked Homecoming. I didn't like Far From Home.
Oh, wow, okay. I'm good at counting. Yeah, alright. I
loved Homecoming.
I like Far From Home, but not nearly as much as these other two.
I think there are good things about this film. But I feel like there's too
Hot
much that bogs it
take.
down for me to say there are too much here that I would like that bothers me at its core. But it really has to do with how the story's paced. And so obviously if we're going to talk about the story being paced, we should talk about the story itself.
Yeah, it sounds good to me. Before we
Yeah.
begin, do you want to, so like you're feeling like lukewarm to not very good about it, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. And this is like
Yeah.
are we talking about like our subjectisms, like, you know, how just
I think this is one of those times where we have to, like, we could objectively say, yeah, it's shot fine, the fight scenes are fine, like, we could, like, objectively speaking, it's fine. Like, I think it is well done because it's a Marvel movie. At this point, they have the formula boiled down, and if you like it, you like it, you know.
yeah, fair enough. I think like in terms of like writing bits, there's definitely in character work, there's a lot of good, and there's like one particular really bad character bit that gets done, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about already. But
I think I do, but I do agree. I think some of the writing for me is definitely hit or miss.
yeah,
But
it's I think of it as like really high highs and some pretty low lows, but overall, well, you know, you take 4 tests, you fail 2 of them, and you do great on 2 of them, so you come up with a pretty average score, really. So I think like from an objective point of view, that's kind of the similar thing happens to this movie. But on the more subjective side, I had a blast with it. I absolutely loved it. But you know, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
So should we go ahead and do our plot recant?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Spoilers for the last one.
Yeah.
Far From Home.
Far From Home.
That's the one I was thinking of.
All right.
Yeah.
So it picks up right where we leave off at the end of Far From Home, not No Way Home, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
They
I love the
the
they really
titling's
fucked
a
with
lot
us on
of
this one.
fun.
Yeah,
I guess I appreciate the theme, but looking back now, it becomes difficult to keep track of them. Anyway,
you're not wrong.
we pick up right where we left off in the last after credit
Mm.
scene, where we have J. Jonah Jameson replaced by the wonderful. Of course, his name is escaping me now. Help.
You're doing. Oh, do you want? You're asking for my help now?
Yeah.
You're asking for my
I can
help.
never remember names, so I'm on the spot.
Man, you're doing
Wow, this
great.
is
Keep it up.
awful. No,
You could do
stop.
it. Come on, you could do it.
No,
I believe in you.
I,
You're almost there. I feel it.
I,
You're
J.K.
very
Simmons,
close.
that's it.
There you go.
I hate
there
you.
you go.
This is the last.
I was also looking it up because I couldn't remember.
This is the
either.
last episode of Two Broken Thumbs, everybody, because my trust was just
No!
betrayed. This is what I've been driven
Understandable.
to. Anywho, geez, this movie is getting shown a lot still. I'm just put it into Google. Jeez, I should go see it again. Anyway,
Yeah.
where were we? J. Jonah Jameson, courtesy of Mysterio, has just revealed the identity of Spider-Man to everybody in the world, seemingly, especially at least everyone in New York. And that's a big ol' issue because as we know, Spider-Man's always been one to keep his identity secret. He's no Iron Man, you know. Big part of him, especially in the comics, has always been juggling that superhero life and that like real life, or not real life, but you know, the home life, the Peter Parker life, and along with the Spider-Man life. So this is a big revelation, and as we're aware from other movies, because yeah, let's be honest, this movie is aware of other Spider-Man movies. It's important to keep in mind that there is very much a consequence to people knowing who Spider-Man is because he, of course, has people he loves, as we all do. And when you're Spider-Man, you make enemies. And when you make enemies, they hit you where it hurts. And if you're a superhero, well, there's better places to hurt than you, is the easy way to put it. So
a great example of that is in the first Homecoming where the Vulture tries to or Vulture knows that his daughter is what Spider-Man wants. And even he's just like, he doesn't mention who Spider-Man actually is because he knows the moment he does, the first thing they're going to do is go after his daughter. At the end of the film, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's really well done, all of it, especially in that movie.
Correct.
Just like trying to juggle the two aspects of his life, and like he just keeps disappointing people, and yeah. It is excellent. It also really builds up his relationship with Ned because they're kind of going through it all together.
The other important thing that I think needs to be touched on too is the fact that Mysterio blamed Spider-Man for the destruction on the town or on the bridge in London.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So he's being pointed to as a menace because he's the one who caused those injuries. And that's one point that I feel kind of gets brushed to the side as the film goes on. Like it becomes a point of like even people get to the point where they like pour black or green goo on his outfit. They start like throwing shit into his home. Like I know it's like it at some point like it feels like they just forget about it after a certain scene, which we'll get to in a bit.
Yeah,
and I just kind of, it feels weird, right? Like, why set up the Mysterio stuff and then not deliver on it?
I think I kind of let it get away because the idea I had when approaching it was they have the conversation with one Matt Murdock about like they're like the evidence just isn't there, like the charges won't hold up against him. And it makes sense that they wouldn't, because there's plenty of information to the contrary, especially like if the drones have any like files recorded or anything. Like it makes sense that things aren't going to stick. But of course, as we know in real life as well, just because the charges don't stick doesn't mean people aren't still convinced. And many people did see Mysterio as a hero, and it makes sense. He played it really well. So that's why they kind of say.
Obviously.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. They obviously like in real life, if something like that did happen, of course there's going to be a group of people no matter what. They'll never change their mind about it. But like they'll never change their mind of like, oh man, Spider-Man killed someone. He literally murdered somebody. And they do show that when he goes back to school, and like the gym teacher's like, you fucking killed him. You fucking. But they played it off as a joke, but it's not. Like the teacher's literally bullying a child.
Yeah.
It feels really like tasteless.
Yeah, I see that. I guess. Yeah, as a comedy bit, that didn't really work for me. But one thing I do really appreciate about that scene is all three of those characters have been in the Spider-Man movies previously, like the MCU ones.
Mm-hmm.
And the two, like one's on his side, one's against him, and one's playing it neutral. And the one on his side and the one that's playing it's neutral, those are the two that happen to go with him on their trip in Far From Home. And I like that a lot because like they would have a better idea of what happened actually, and they probably know better.
I didn't think about that. I didn't even think about that, honestly.
Oh, it's just a little detail, and it doesn't save the comedy by any means. It's just and one thing I appreciate.
The other thing too is the principal is literally only doing it for the sole reason of like a financial bonus. Like he made all those things in the glass case and like tried to act like the students made it. But like it's gonna be real easy once this blows over to be like, oh yeah, Spider-Man attended our school. We turn kids into superheroes. You should come here. Like
yeah, no, absolutely.
He's only being positive for profit, which is still gross too.
Man, you really think so? I didn't draw that from that.
I mean, we see the principal a little bit, but it just like. It definitely feels like if he's going to make an entire clay model and have signs that say where we make superheroes as like the school's new motto, that definitely feels like you're trying to market the fact you have Spider-Man at your school.
I guess I see it. I guess that's fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So let's see then. Well, yeah. While I agree with that, I think it's worth noting that I feel I still believe that he is like, really believes what he's saying at least. Like he really thinks Peter's a hero and all that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and sorry, I also want to mention when I don't have the notebook with me, but I like tried writing notes down while watching the film, as I usually do when we do these reviews. Mm-hmm. But I didn't want to have my phone out while doing it. And the only thing I managed to write down was, wow, look, Matt Murdock. For when he like reacted to the thing. I'm like, so are they just setting up Daredevil, or has he already been set up? I don't know. Well, it just felt weird to me.
That's one of those things, right? Because anyone who likes the show Daredevil or is aware of it is going to see this and they're going to be like, oh my god, it's Matt Murdock, right? And it's nice to see him, but he is acting like Matt Murdock would in the situation. He catches the brick, because he's a good lawyer. But it is worth noting that like the continuity of Daredevil cannot exist with the continuity of the MCU. Like it won't. Oh, cool. It won't work. Yeah, so it's like, my theater like cheered a little bit, and I was like, oh, I'm glad these people know who this is. Like that's sweet, but but with that said,
oh, good job.
Right. Well, seriously, it's like Daredevil is like, I think it's regarded as like the best Marvel TV show, at least of like the Netflix ones, but
the season 1 at least.
I don't, but I don't really expect people to know about it too much, so it's nice to see. But again, it's like, oh man, I don't know. Mm-hmm. With that said, it could be the same actor playing the same character in a different universe. The thing is, there's not much substance behind except for him acting the way he would, so we don't.
And him being there.
Right, exactly. So there's like, you can't tell, can't know for sure.
Yeah.
But
correct.
A precedent has been set that he's in this world, so I expect them to do something with him, and I expect it to not fit correctly, continuity-wise,
And you're gonna take every moment you can to show everyone how rad and bad and wrong it is.
Absolutely, but until then, I will enjoy it because it made me smile. I liked it.
So after this moment, it's kind of like after this is kind of like when the MIT and school stuff starts happening of going to college. After like the charges get dropped.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
yeah,
Essentially,
that's a
he just says that you know, charges aren't going to stick, but people are still going to think poorly of you. This is still going to have consequences on you. Not in like an official sense, but the court of public opinions, as he says. So,
mm-hmm.
we call it Twitter these days. Spider-Man is canceled, essentially. And,
Literally what happened.
right.
I mean, when you murder a man, it's less the fact that you're canceled and more the fact that people think you've committed an actual crime, not said a racial slur from the 70s.
Right. And, and, like, one thing I like about this movie, J. Jonah Jameson pops up a few times. He never lies. Like, he only gives information that makes sense from his POV, and like, it's good, is what I'm trying to say. Like, the mindset isn't invalid. Like, it people would absolutely
it's a watered down Alex
arrive
Jones.
at this. Yeah, they also turned him into Alex Jones. We can talk about that a little bit.
Oh, I want to talk about that. Don't you
Fantastic.
worry. I have a few things to say about that.
All right, let's move along. We'll reference that as it comes up. So, I guess the next thing that happens is
the college stuff.
Yeah, Peter, Ned, and MJ. They all sent out applications. They all want to get into MIT, and but they also, of course, send applications to some backup schools. And it's sort of a montage of with like Aunt May getting the letters and Peter opening them, and it's like, oh, we got a new letter, open it up, didn't get in. That's fine though, it's a backup school, and that happens a couple times, and then we got like our big moment, right, where the friends, MJ and Ned and Peter, they all gather up at MJ's work. She works at like a little coffee house. They all open their letters from MIT, and none of them get in, and it specifically says, like, in light of your recent controversies, we can't accept you at this time. And this is a pretty big moment in terms of Peter's motivation, because this is really the moment when he's like, oh man, like, the Spider-Man thing, like, it's getting in the way of my friends' lives now, like,
And I do like that. I wish it wasn't done so quickly. I wish it was done like over the beginning of the film to that point. Does that make sense? Like, if they had him getting letters like over time of the beginning of the film, so it's something that is important to him while he's already stressed out about everything else. It feels like the Mysterio and the plot stuff, like this stuff itself, happened at two separate times for me. I just kind of feel like disconnected from it, Like, I get it's part of like what pushed him to this scene, but I definitely feel like if they had it going on while he's being harassed, it would have had a bigger impact.
Are you saying like if he was getting letters over time more instead of just a supercut here at this point in time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
I guess I see that. I don't like
It's not necessary. It doesn't ruin the movie for me.
Right, no.
It's just one of those. It's one of the things that feels like it would be way more natural.
Yeah, I guess I see what you're saying. I'm trying. Yeah, I don't think he's really mentioned MIT in the past, which, like, it's not unreasonable that he'd really want to get in there, considering he is a really smart kid, especially in the sciences and whatnot. And like, that if that's what you're good at, that's where you want to go. It's the Juilliard of the actors and singers, right? So like, yeah. So I guess, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Like, if they obviously couldn't have set it up in the last two films, which is fine. I think they made mention of it in the first one, of like the dad asking him like where he wanted to go to college and shit. But I can't recall off the top of my head.
Maybe I could see that coming up. In Civil War, that's Iron Man is like given a little performance at MIT. Yeah, and he like pays off debt or like funds their projects or something. Which
yeah,
that's another thing. At one point in this movie, Peter says that he's broke, and I remember thinking to myself, because in Falcon and Winter Soldier, they kind of set up a thing where the Falcon is broke, and I remember thinking, oh, is Iron Man not like giving money to his Avengers? Like, nothing. It doesn't have to be anything crazy or anything, but surely like living allowance or something. And I guess this just kind of confirms that he wasn't giving any money to any of his Avengers, which is it's real cool, yo.
Captain America?
I'm sorry, Iron Man.
Iron Man. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, the one of the biggest problems people have had with this is not a defense of this film, but in comics, one of the biggest problems people have is yes, you can be a superhero just like these people as long as you get millions of dollars and have a rich family beforehand. Like, I guess they're trying to solve that issue, which isn't even a real issue. It's just something people point out, like, wow, a lot of these superheroes happen to be super rich.
Yeah,
Like,
I always think it's worth noting, because like comic Spider-Man is like poor the vast majority
yeah,
of the time, at least, and like that's part of the issue. Like he's trying to balance the superhero life with maintaining a job, which you can only imagine is really hard. And
Spider-Man 2.
right, yeah, no, it's done really well there, I think. But
Yep.
yeah, and people feel like a critical part of Spider-Man is missing in these movies because of that, which I can see, but I feel like I also sort of respect the adaptation argument to the point of like if they're trying to cast a new Spider-Man superhero in this universe where these things exist, I think it would play out like this. I think this is like a more realistic version of what would happen putting this character in this scenario. I say broadly, like pre-Endgame stuff. It makes sense to me that this young kid would be kind of picked up by the older, more experienced superheroes, especially Iron Man, and looked after. But yeah,
And given, I've made mention of this, like, I don't like how he went from having his homemade suit to a brand new suit made by somebody else, which they fix that in Far From Home, kind of, where he makes his own suit. Um, but it's one of those scenes where, like, because something happens later in the film, you don't need to worry about this Peter Parker not being comic accurate anymore.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Which
because
I hope that crowd is pleased with that.
correct.
I am very
I am.
I'm
And they do something to show that this Parker is still intelligent. Because, yeah, he's smart, but they really don't show that often. Do you know what I mean?
well, I mean,
Like,
I
I would argue that he's, like, smart, but he isn't wise. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just very smart.
I kind of think I agree, but I think that's the point. I don't know how wise he
Yeah.
was per se in the comics, but like Homecoming really puts in the effort here because he makes his own webs and like he's working through school and people are always like, oh, the Spider-Man doesn't really face consequences for his actions. The big climax of Homecoming, for anyone who forgot, is he gets essentially abandoned by Iron Man after screwing up, and then he has to go fight the bad guy on his own and with his own like crappy homemade suit, and like that's the payoff. Like he at first everything was kind of given to him, and then he lost it by like disobeying orders, and then he earned it back by doing the right thing despite really not having a reason to besides it being the right thing, and he did it like with his own resources without anybody's help. And
And
I think that's
the
kind of lost
pinnacle of
upon
that
people.
scene.
Yeah,
The pinnacle of that scene is when he's underneath all that rubble, and the only one who is there is him, and he has to convince himself to get up instead of having everybody like cheer for him to continue going. He has to push himself.
right.
Like, that's the catalyst, in my opinion. Like, that scene where he's telling himself to get up, Spider-Man. It's like he's not telling himself to get up. He's telling Spider-Man to get up because he's trying to hype himself up. Like, he's just a kid. Like, that scene is so fucking good. Like, say what you want about MCU, I love that scene.
Oh, I love that scene.
Yeah.
I tell people I think Homecoming's like probably the first or second best movie in the MCU, and that hasn't changed, just so we're clear, since Endgame.
Yeah.
But
Um.
alas,
Yeah, I just feel like if they did do the MIT stuff like over time, it would have been better. But it still works, and it does lead to the next scene, which is a fun one, which is with Doctor Strange.
oh, I want to say before we move on to that, at that point when they're kind of having their sad moment, Flash bursts in and he got accepted to MIT, and he's like really happy for himself. He's like doing a little dance and stuff. And this is one of those moments where I really think the MCU has a joke quota, because that's not it. I wasn't impressed.
Oh, 100%.
That
100%.
Yeah.
If they like had a scene where like Flash had made like a side comment later down the line of, because they were doing that to show the fact that Flash had gone into the MIT, which set something up later. But I feel like there's like nicer. It kind of took away from the moment. I was just watching Shanghai, Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi.
Wow, I'm going to get fucking canceled
Wow.
for that one. Oh no.
Shanghai
Oh
is
no.
when you
No,
knock
no,
somebody.
no,
Okay, all
no.
right.
I was watching that and I was really invested in the guy's like the main character's story. I'm like, it's super cool. It's interesting. Like he basically forgot the love his mother showed him because he became such a ruthless warrior. I'm like, oh, I wonder what happens to his first mission. And then this character comes up and goes like, do you want vegetable or pork? Because we're out of the other one. I'm like, really? This isn't necessary. This ruined a perfectly great scene because you tried to be funny.
Yeah. Yep.
My friend has a very good term for it. It's called corging it up, where at the end of Thor, which one was it? Fuck, which one was Korgan?
Ragnarok.
Yeah, at the end of Ragnarok, Korg makes a statement like, "Oh, we can rebuild. It doesn't look too bad. We could rebuild it. We can try it over again." And then it gets blown up even more. He's like, "Oh, now it's gone for good." And he says that moment ruined a perfectly good scene. So he refers to scenes like that. They're like comedy that ruins a scene as a Korg moment.
I gotcha.
And I like that. It's a nice term.
I'm all right with that. I can stick with that term. I'd have to rewatch that because Korg's really funny in that movie. But
Korg is funny. He's not saying Korg the character is bad. It's just
right
saying
that particular
that
instance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm cool. I'm good with that. And
But yeah,
it wasn't funny, and also it doesn't make a ton of sense because in this movie, Flash writes a book called Flashpoint about his relationship with Peter. So it's really weird that Ned and MJ wouldn't get in since they're related to Peter, but this guy who actually wrote a whole book on his friendship with Peter gets in. Like that? No.
Yeah.
Nope.
There's no way
Fumble.
that he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't. He should get punished too.
Yeah.
Like, yes, technically speaking, he was not he was not being questioned in jail and whatnot, but it still feels weird. Like if they got rid of the scene with him with the book, 100%, they could have like had him, but he was trying to like hog the spotlight of Spider-Man. I guess it's Flash is weird, right? We can both agree Flash is kind of like weird and like not well developed in this universe.
They're trying to do like a new age bully, like not the classic big strong dude who beats up the nerd, more of like, just a dick. And don't get me wrong, it's very dickish to like have someone who was never your friend then go and write a book about their great friendship with you and make a ton of money off it. Like that's not good. But like I've never been particularly impressed with it,
Nor and the idea that he does it in like, I don't know, less than a week's time.
Yeah, that especially.
Like no fucking way. No fucking.
The timeline doesn't
fucking way
line up.
Creating a book. Yeah. No, not at all.
Yeah.
If it implied that it had been a couple weeks, sure. But it feels like it's only
That's
been a few
better,
days.
But still, like a fully published book in a couple weeks, like you get, yeah.
Yeah. It's like a real OJ moment.
Yeah, this is Flash didn't need to be in this movie. He was passable in the other two, but like he doesn't need to be in this one. It's okay. But alas, after that fun little ending of a scene, Peter goes to meet Doctor Strange. And let's see. So in the scene, we learn they're dealing with like some like snow problem. Someone left a door open in the sanctum, which is fine. Yeah, whatever. There's some jokes to be made about it.
Yeah.
We find out Juan has been promoted to Sorcerer Supreme, which makes sense since Steven was snapped away for 5 years. And excuse me. And let's see. So Peter asks that what happened with Mysterio get undone, and Steven says no, can't do that, and he's like gonna leave, and then either Steven or Juan bring up the idea of like a mind wipe spell, and Juan doesn't want anything to do with it for good reason.
I want to say it was No, it was Juan who thought of the idea. Actually, Juan had made a statement, and Steve had said like, "Hey, you might be onto something for once," and that's what started him to think of the mind erase spell.
I gotcha. I'll take your word for it.
Yeah,
Like I said, haven't seen this movie in like probably a week and a half now. I should have watched it again, but
yeah.
alas. So they so like Steven and Peter kind of share a look, and then they like Steven escorts him into the basement, and so this
Mm-hmm.
is I think the best way to do this will probably be to go over everything that happens and then go through it and kind of talk about
Oh,
what doesn't
okay,
work.
okay.
uh,
Oh, you want to talk about the spell doesn't work?
uh, talk about like mechanically what
Yeah.
doesn't work well. So
Okay, let's go for it.
so Steven takes him downstairs and
Mm-hmm.
he's like I wish the script was up on Google so that I could read it, but he essentially says, I'm going to start casting a spell, and you're not allowed to talk or like really distract me while we're doing this, okay? And I can't remember,
The
so help me out.
the main the main. Sorry, go ahead.
Does he say we can't stop the spell halfway through?
Yes. So what the main thing that caused Peter to start questioning the spell is when Strange said goodbye Peter, um, because he was going to forget about Peter Parker too, um, or forget about Spider-Man, Peter being Spider-Man, and that's the catalyst of him going like, wait, what do you mean you're going to forget too? He realizes that everyone in his family is going to forget too, and that's why he starts adding spells. And at some point, it's too late in the spell to stop it.
Right. So
So instead, what he does is he makes addendums to the spell, which okay, I'm kind of okay with.
so
It's magic. We don't really know much about how it works in this universe.
yeah. So I'm mostly okay with like how the spell is portrayed as working. But
Mm-hmm.
essentially, what happens is, yeah, he says, goodbye, Peter. He says, everyone in the world is going to forget that you are Spider Man, that Peter Parker is Spider Man.
Mm-hmm.
And if we remember back a little bit, all Peter says is that he wants, like, what happened with Mysterio to be undone. So this isn't the same as what Peter asked for. So, and like you said, he's like, wait a minute, I don't want that. So he starts like making edits to it, and he's like, I want MJ to remember, and want Ned to remember because a big part of their relationship is based off that, and like
Mm-hmm.
Aunt May, and so Doctor Strange every time he like it's weird because as he's casting a spell, there's like a ring of the energy around him, and then so like every time he stops and then he makes an adjustment, he's like, Aunt May will remember, but no one else will, and like an extra ring is sort of added. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
they keep doing this. They do this a couple times, and then the spell like starts getting all loopy and whatnot, and like the floor is opening up and craziness is happening. And then Doctor Strange pulls it all together into like this little shapely object, and he's like, "You messed up the spell. I told you not to talk while we're doing this." So, and that's about it. Does that sound like everything? Have I missed anything important?
No. So what I thought was happening was that was the multiverse starting to like. The problem was that the multiverse was starting to open up, which I don't know how that happened from the spell, unless I like missed something. Um,
That is also my
but yeah,
interpretation, and I think
yeah,
that's fair enough. That whole, I'm not sure why. Like, I
yeah.
guess
It
spells
it
just
feels just.
inherently have something to do with the multiverse. It's weird.
I think what ended up happening was something along the lines of like he kept asking things to be added, and because everything kept being added, um, the spell started to fall apart. Instead of letting everyone forget who Peter was, it only brought people who knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man. So like the spell did the reverse of what it needed to do.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
So
It went from
yeah, I can accept that. Yeah.
it went from yeah, people who are in this universe who know who Peter is to just people who know who Peter is, which We'll have to talk about that in a minute. But as for now,
Yep.
um, this is sort of what I said earlier, like in terms of character work, like one thing being really butchered. This is kind of what I was talking about. Doctor Strange really doesn't handle any of this situation well.
No.
Because, like we said, Peter just says, I want what happened to be reversed, and he takes him downstairs, and all he says is, okay, I'm gonna do a spell, and you're not allowed to talk during it, and then he starts casting it, and he's like, everyone's gonna forget who you are, by the way, and it's like, wait, no, that's not what I asked for. There should have been a whole conversation where he's like, okay, this is the spell I'm gonna cast. This is what it does. This is how it works. We're not allowed to change it once we begin. So I need a quick list of all the people who you want to be exceptions to this rule. And also, I'm surprised
Yeah.
Doctor Strange didn't make himself an exception to the rule. At least that's what I assume is happening there. It's very strange.
Yeah, it definitely feels like a conflict that has to happen for the movie to happen, but is easily solvable if you sit down and think about the fact that he is supposed to be like one of the most intelligent people in the world. And like people are just like, no, he's not. He's a fucking like genius doctor who's able to like list off the names of songs while doing like heart surgery. You cannot tell me he could be smart enough to not figure that out. Like, come on.
Right, and it's just like, I don't know, it just seems really basic to me. And like I work a job in customer service. There's plenty of times where like someone will tell me something and I won't understand like exactly what they mean. And then, just very mundane stuff, and then partway through they'll be like, no, wait, that's not what I meant. I was telling you this because I need this thing instead. And it's like, oh, my bad. All right, yeah, that makes total sense to me. So like,
Correct.
stopping to clarify these things, especially when we're dealing with like magic, like, come on, guys, like, they
even make a joke about it later, like MJ literally says like, hey, maybe next time if you're gonna destroy the planet, we should talk about it first so we can like make a plan about it. I'm like, yeah, you think?
Yeah, and I think
like
I remember people on Twitter being upset that she's like talking to Doctor Strange that way. And at first I was like, yeah, I don't really like that. It kind of reminds me of like how Shuri talks to the Hulk or Bruce Banner in Infinity War. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, then again, this is totally his fault. Like, we shouldn't have to be in this situation. But alas, this needs to happen for the plot to happen. So, bad writing as far as I'm concerned. Doctor Strange is sacrificed to give us the plot of this movie. Which is...
Which definitely makes me want to watch the next movie he's in.
Right. Yeah, that makes me nervous. Well, funny you should mention that. I think a lot of these issues could get fixed if Doctor Strange was like the evil Doctor Strange in this movie, and this was just like one of the nefarious things he was doing. But I don't really want to get into that. There's a lot there.
I also like could care less.
Right. So
about Doctor Strange at this point.
I just like just so everyone knows, I liked his movie. I liked him in Infinity War for the most part. It was weird that like so like the big child of Thanos, as I think they're called, Obsidian Cull, I think his name is. Juan cuts off his arm by like getting his arm in a portal and then closing it. So I've always wondered if that's just something that Doctor Strange could do. And now, and Doctor Strange's powers only seem to get bigger the more that he's in movies. So he's approaching points of very, very overpowered, and he is not going to be put in check. So Doctor Strange has really just gotten worse and worse for me as time has gone on. I like seeing him, but
yeah,
geez, man. And
it feels like he feels very much like a Deus Ex Machina character who's like, oh, I can just do whatever. Which, to be fair, was also his character in the comics. He's kind of like... He's literally the most powerful spellcaster in the Marvel Universe. So it's hard to make a movie series about him work without you feeling like none of the stakes matters.
Right. And, one thing I really despise about Endgame is, like, in the final battle, I know why they did this. It's for the final battle. But they're like, we need to get the gauntlet away from Thanos. And then they're like, no, we need to send it back. Hulk's like, we need to send it back to their respective universes. And everyone in their head should be like... Well, we can do that later. Like, for now, we should just get it away from Thanos. Just give it to Iron Man and have him fly, up, away. anywhere else.
Away from
Yeah,
the problem.
there's plenty of allies here. Like, we can probably take on Thanos while he doesn't have the gauntlet. Let's just take it away. Like, come on, it'll be okay.
Let's just kill Thanos.
Yeah. Well, even if you don't kill him, like, just get it away from him. Like, we can take this problem one step at a time, but you don't need to run at him with the gauntlet. It's okay.
I just love picturing the scene of like Joker from The Dark Knight. It was like, it's simple. We kill Thanos.
Hey, that episode of What If made it look real easy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we needn't go down that rabbit hole. But there is actually a rabbit hole I wanted to approach with you.
Go for it.
So, Doctor Strange has the ability to cast a spell to make people forget things. First of all, there's some ethical implications to doing this just to, like, save Peter some trouble. But I'm actually going to avoid those in search of something much more relevant, as far as I'm concerned. So, are people born evil?
Oh, James.
No. This is an easy
one.
This is an easy one. You're already overthinking it.
Man, I just want to talk about the funny Spiderman movie.
No. Come on. I'm thinking about villains in movies in particular.
Oh,
are they?
Well, that's a crutch of this film. Like, that's a big point of this film by the end.
I agree.
Like,
but tell me.
I would argue it depends on the villain.
Would ya?
Thanos was born evil.
No, he wasn't.
Thanos was, yeah. I mean, at least in the comics, he was.
Maybe in the comics, but in the MCU, I don't think so. I think he was like a fine person who thought he had a reasonable solution to a problem, and his motivation is what happened to his home world, watching everybody get wiped out because of overpopulation.
Which doesn't make him an evil person per se.
I don't think so, but like it makes him
It
makes him do evil things. But that's not really what I'm getting at.
Correct.
What I'm getting at is Thanos does what he does because of what happened on his home planet. Would you agree with that?
Correct. Yeah. He took an ideology from an experience he had as a child that scarred him and made it into his belief system.
So what happens...
Which inherently... Yeah, go ahead.
What happens if you make Thanos forget about what happened on Titan?
I mean, if you make him forget, then he's going to wonder what happened, and then he's going to find out, won't he?
Maybe. What if you just make him forget Titan existed?
Well, then he's going to start asking questions about his existence and stuff and where he came from. At some point,
we tell him he came from somewhere else.
Would do that. But someone was going to spill the beans eventually. Someone's
really?
The best. I would say yes. The best guarded secrets of society are always going to be spilled out eventually.
I mean,
at some point, people are going to learn about the secret. Someone's going to spill the beans.
I wonder.
Someone will be a whistleblower of Thanos. Is what I'm trying to say.
How many people know? Like, I don't know if Titan was like prosperous on an intergalactic scale. My question is really just like, if villains forget about like
what made them a villain,
right? Are they a villain?
I would say that their past version is a villain, but they are not. I feel like if they show that they have changed, they should not be held to the same regards of their villainous behavior.
So if you take someone who is traumatized or like their motivation is entirely inspired by experiences that they have or knowledge of something that has happened, which we can comfortably say about pretty much all villains, would wiping their memory prevent them from being villains? Can Doctor Strange, with the spell alone, mitigate any villain from arising?
Yeah, I guess if that's the question you're asking me, I could have easily just said yes. We could have moved on.
I wanted to go on this journey with you.
You want to get the content.
I thought about that walking out of the theater. I was like, wait a minute.
Being able to erase people's, like, they even make a joke about how they used it casually at a fucking party.
I know, and that's part of what that's part of what upsets me about it, because it's like, wait,
you can't say you can't say that it's a powerful spell that shouldn't be used like that, and then immediately follow it up by saying, "Remember when we used it for a stupid party?"
No, I don't remember. Yeah, exactly. It's like, guys,
like if he went to Dormammu and was just like, Dormammu, you never came to Earth. You already came to Earth and conquered it. You can leave now. And then he thought that. Then he could just leave Earth.
Right.
And then there'd be no problem.
Yeah. And I mean, like, especially the easier villains, like the human ones, like Zemo and
Vulture.
Yeah. Like all of them, especially, just forget what happened. Zemo forgets that he had that family.
Which would even solve the problem of, now, is it ethical to do? That's a different question entirely.
But well, making everybody in the world forget something for the sake of like helping this kid out, like that's one thing. But like making like mass murdering villains forget an aspect of their backstory to save the lives of like dozens, if not hundreds of people, I feel more comfortable with that one. Especially if the alternative is like killing them.
Yeah, it's like more complicated, like death penalty.
It's
or less complicated depending on the state you live in.
I was about to say. and
depending on the state you live in.
And if you're thinking to yourself, okay, that's there's a bit of a slippery slope here. I would say to you, you know what? I think I agree. I think you're right. It's still like ethically that is a rough thing to deal with. However, I think
it's just weird that he has that power.
I think I have already put more thought into this than they did. So like perhaps it should be explored.
Perhaps we should ask.
If we're
questions.
willing
Maybe
to kill
Doctor
Thanos
Strange
to protect half the universe, I feel like we should also be willing to make him forget about his home world to protect half the universe. I'm okay with those things. But
we just brainwash baby Thanos.
Yes. It's better than snapping his neck, I'd like to think. But alas.
Oh, that was definitely a conversation we just had there.
Yeah.
Where the fuck are we in this? Oh, right, the multiverse starts.
Yeah. So this is gonna be a long one, boys.
Here,
so
I'll take over on this part. I'll take this over.
All right, let's hear it.
So the spell happens and it fails, or at least Doctor Strange thinks it fails. And he tells Peter, "Hey, did you try calling the school?" And when he says no, he shuts the door on Peter, which like. That's the smartest thing he's done so far.
Yep.
Like that should have been the first thing he told Peter. Like, hey, you should have called the school.
And I think it's played off as a joke because Strange is like, this sucks, but at least you exhausted all your options, right? And Peter's like, what do you mean? And he's like, you called the school and you pled for them to reconsider. You did do that, right? And Peter's like, no. I appreciate that a lot, and I think it's because. Like, as someone who's still growing up, as far as I'm concerned, like, there have been situations like that where, like, you got a bad grade in a class, and I'm like, man, it's doomed. I got a bad grade in my class. My mom's like, ask if there's anything you can do. Ask if there's any, like, test retakes or, like, extra credit or something you can do. And I remember always being like, nah, that won't work. And then, like, many times it did.
Trying it.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy how a mom, shout out to our moms out here, crazy how the things they suggest we do work.
Yeah, and it just like that's just like immediately what it reminded me of. Like, well, at least you tried your best and you like exhausted all other options. And it's like, oh, I didn't even consider other options. That worked for me very well. I appreciated it. Anyway,
I feel so. Side thing. This is like a side run.
Sure.
So in this film, we haven't gotten to it yet, but they try to make a point about Aunt May being a very important character. I feel like he should have gone home to Aunt May, and she suggested that to like, because it just popped in my head when talking about our parents. Like that would make sense for her to do.
Yeah,
but it works still, anyways. I'm just saying it'd be funnier if that happened too. That way, been like, yeah, moms always know.
Yeah, I could appreciate that.
But so this was what the quote unquote payoff of Flash, where he calls Flash and asks him where the MIT lady's at, and he says, "Oh, she's on her way to the airport," and he just fucking runs to the airport. And because we didn't mention this, but Stark Industries is currently under investigation because the bots were part of Stark Industries, and that made it to where Peter can't fully use his suit, at least for like searching and stuff.
Yeah, that also got rid of the glasses that Peter could use to activate. I think it's called Enid, and like all the drone network, which I think is very good because those drones have a lot of implications, and I'm glad they're not something that we have to worry about in this movie.
Oh yeah, 100%. Sorry, 1 second.
Oh, it's all good. Did you guys notice he got farther away? You could hear it. One thing I definitely appreciate in addition to that is I said appreciate, that was the wrong word. This is definitely another one of those movies that falls victim to the standard solo film Marvel problem, where there's other superheroes in this world and we're aware of it. However, they are not particularly helpful. And I mean, Doctor Strange is in this one, but there's a bunch of them. Like, we watched Endgame. There's quite a few superheroes, and they'd probably have concerns about this one, lads.
Correct. Sorry, I was fixing something real quick.
Yeah, no worries.
So he goes to the MIT lady to try and convince her to plead his case while she's trying to fly to the airport. And that's what leads to some shenanigans going down the bridge that she's on to go there. And suddenly something starts digging out of the ground from above, and something starts happening, and someone pops up with metallic arms and says his famous line. That is not really going to show. Are you fucking kidding me? I set this bit up so it doesn't fucking work. Are you kidding me? I'm a little mad.
Well, that was funny.
I sent him a DM.
I just got a DM. It seems to be an audio file.
There we go. There you go.
Ah, there we go.
He goes, "Hello, Peter."
It's a me.
It's Doc Ock from the Sam Raimi trilogy.
Oh my goodness.
A trilogy that we are very familiar with.
We are.
If you recall, from one of literally our longest film reviews combined.
Yeah, it's funny, we put so much time into those, and I've since watched those movies, and I have second thoughts on a few of the things I said. But we don't need to worry about that.
We can add that at the end.
Yeah.
We can add that to the end of this to extend the length of this video.
Oh, there you go.
See,
big
there
brain,
you go. Yeah. Big brain.
Yeah, great idea. So, Doc Ock shows up.
Yeah, Doc Ock shows up.
Uh-huh. And, he's, hello, Peter. And, carnage is happening as, they're fighting, and, Peter the whole time, he's acting as he should. He's confused, and he's like, I don't know who you are, why do you know my name, what's going on? And he's like playing really defensively until at some point Doc Ock says, I should have killed your girlfriend, which, is not in reference to this MJ, but a different one. But still, that like sets something off in Peter, and I'm like, yeah, I like that. That's fine with me.
Yeah.
And
that's cute. That's wholesome.
Yeah, I'm good.
Boy just wants to protect his girl. She's already been through enough because of him. It's a moment of because she's already been in enough, like she's already dealt with enough of him with her knowing and everything, and the fact that his last girlfriend also was in a parallel situation because of her relationship with him. Like, yeah, it's enough to set him off, I think, at this point.
Yeah, and he doesn't go crazy or anything, but he's definitely playing a bit more offensively at that point, which I appreciate.
He gets a little aggressive, yeah.
And in terms of fight choreography, I think this one's done really well. It looks like a lot of care was put into Doc Ock. Like, it seems to consistently be, like, because he's up on his arms the whole time, and at least two of his arms are always working on like positioning and like keeping him upright, while the other two are focused more on like attacking and playing the field. And I think it was well done. I appreciate it a lot. And it
definitely does. It felt natural.
Yeah, And
Yeah.
one thing that was nice to see, because in the Sam Raimi trilogy, Doc Ock has like these blades in his tentacles, tentacle blades I'll refer to them as, and they only pop up in 2 scenes of the Sam Raimi movies, and that's like one of the things I don't like, because it seems like he's not the whole time, but at least some of the time trying to kill Peter. So it's odd that he doesn't utilize those more often. But sort of the climax of this scene is I think he's like torn off. Oh god.
He tore off the inside of
Like-
the Spider-Man suit,
Like the torso part,
and
right?
combined it with his.
Yeah.
The nanomachines combined with him.
Right. Well, what happens? I think he like tears part of it off, and like the nanomachines start working at that point, and then he goes to stab him in the chest, but the suit protects him by moving all of the head, like the helmet, to his chest, and that like breaks the blade. So that's nice that we know that the tentacle blade won't work on Peter, because that solves problems in terms of like Doc Ock not using the resources he has. And at
Oh no, that makes way more sense than what I thought in the theaters. Oh my god,
what-
I feel kind of.
What'd you think?
I kind of feel stupid. I thought his tie protected him.
Why? All right.
I like saw the tie get ripped off. I'm like, oh, so the tie must have had like some defense inside of it.
It's
That's
a tie he
clever.
got from the Wakanda gift shop. It's like vibranium. All right. Well, I'm glad that happened.
Oh god, I feel so fucking stupid.
Yeah. So this.
Because then that's what caused him to realize that he's not Peter Parker.
Yeah.
That he knows.
A couple things get accomplished with that.
God. Oh no.
That's
I just said that on the internet
funny.
for everyone to. God
There you go.
damn
Well,
it.
there you go, friends. It shows we all make mistakes, I suppose. I forgot
No, no,
J.K. Simmons' name a few minutes ago. You guys remember that?
That was 45 minutes ago.
Yeah. Oh well. Anyway,
Anyways.
so let's see. So at that point he's like, "You're not Peter," and Spider-Man is of course like, "Yes, I am. What's happening?" And I think this is the point when Doctor Strange intervenes. No, not quite. No. He taunts him first.
Yeah.
So the part of his suit, like we said, climbs up into the tentacles, and then essentially Peter gets control with the Iron Spider suit of Doc Ock's tentacles. So he's just like picking on him at this point. Like he's like tapping into the system and like moving his hand around to manipulate his arms, and like Doc Ock's just mad. I think at some point he says like, "Will the humiliation not stop?" or something, and it's like it's very good. Also, Alfred Molina nails it. It's very fun to watch this character back on screen.
No, this isn't much of a spoiler because it's literally on the fucking posters. Every actor who returns, I'll say that, every actor who returns does a very good job playing their character again. Except for one of them, I'll get back to that one on the second.
Sounds good to me. I think I might know what you're talking about. But I will say, of like the main characters being Spider-Man and the baddie, at least Electro, Green Goblin, and Doc Ock, like they play it as good as before, if not better. They are all very good in this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like he's messing with the arms a little bit.
Speaking of Green Goblin,
right? So then Green Goblin approaches the scene, and in an excellent way. It starts with just a pumpkin bomb landing on the highway and exploding, and then we see the man arrive himself in the full Goblin armor on the glider, and I don't remember what he says, but I'm sure he laughs or says something, and I'm sure it's amazing.
I'm sure it's a reference for us to clap to and jerk off to.
Absolutely. And this is actually a good movie to talk about the difference between like key jangling and like effectively paying homage to characters we've seen in the past. in like a more meaningful way. We'll get there though. That'd be a good thing for the end.
Yeah.
But so I think it's at this point then Doctor Strange intervenes and he portals Spider-Man and Doc Ock back to was it Comatage or Sanctum Sanctorum, whatever.
The basement.
Yeah,
the basement
back to the basement
building. Yeah.
And he's at this point, Doctor Strange has like some, we'll just say cells set up to contain these villains.
And he explains to Peter, saying what we explained earlier, that it wasn't the spell failed to where instead of everybody forgetting Peter, it brought everybody who knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Right. Supposedly.
Supposedly.
Minus a few characters here and there. But
I think I know who you're talking about, but we'll get to them when they get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so is Lizard already here?
No. Oh, yeah, Lizard's there because Doctor Strange just caught him.
Yep.
Like, he's like, oh, yeah, I found him chilling in the sewers. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing in the sewers?
Yeah, that was an interesting one to me, too. I was like, did he do something that, like, set him off?
Alerted him of his presence?
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
It definitely felt
a disturbance in the forest.
To me, it felt like they didn't want to have the Lizard in a fight scene, but they wanted to have the Lizard in the movie, so they had to like find a way to get him there ahead of time. If that makes sense.
Yeah. No.
Like the Lizard's kind of there, but he's also that's all he is. He's just there.
Yeah. I appreciate the actor doing the voice, because everything he says is great. But I think the reason he needs to be there is because Strange needs to explain what happened for real this time, and essentially set our characters on their quest. And Jesus, this is gonna take a while. So, to put it simply, people who know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man got transported into this world, and we find out more about this later, and we'll get there. But so essentially, Strange tells the team, being Peter, MJ, and Ned, that they need to go and capture the rest of the villains that have been transported into this world. And he gives them like a little like wrist modification for his Spider-Man suit that like essentially will shoot a laser, and whatever that laser hits will get transported into one of the cells. So, the little magical
it's like a spider laser.
Yeah, I guess
it looks like a
it does like
the web.
How do I say this? Yeah, it doesn't shoot like a laser. It arcs like a web.
Yeah.
So,
which I'm sure is probably a reference to something. I was also gonna say it feels like they change up the Spider-Man costume a couple times in this film. So like part of my brain wants to say it's supposed to be like a reference to the fact that like at some point Spider-Man gets magical power. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just saying I wouldn't put it past them if they were trying to do that.
If that is a thing that happens, then I can see it, but
it doesn't pay off for us, so we do not care.
Right. So, let's see. He goes out. At this point, I think he's like still trying to clean the green goo off of his suit. So he just flips his suit inside out and is flying around in that. And he like.
I just thought it was like
Yeah.
I
think that's. I'm not sure. It's not a big deal, but So he's going out and he's got like his cell phone duct taped to his chest on FaceTime so that he can communicate with Ned and MJ. So that,
which like to me doesn't make any sense. Why are they doing that?
I guess it's like
there literally is no point for them doing that, right?
I don't know what's helpful about that, unless like was Ned able to locate them or something? Was that going on?
Ned located them way before. They just did that.
Oh, then I guess. Well, then it must have been for the jokes, because
it was literally just for the jokes.
There were jokes, folks.
Otherwise, because otherwise it doesn't make any logical sense for them doing that.
Yeah. Anyway, he goes and he finds a good old Electro from TASM 2, and he's up by some electrical lines, as he would be.
Is it the same actor, by the way? I don't recall.
It is the
I literally
same
can't
actor.
remember. Okay.
So in TASM 2,
that changes things for me.
He's got messed up teeth. They say it in the movie. He's got like messed up teeth and like a comb over and like the big glasses, and like he doesn't look good at all. And then he turns into Electro and he's just the blue guy the whole time, and it doesn't look great, and it's hard. And they have the cringy Electro song playing. But in this one,
I like heard that in theaters, going like in my brain. I was like, okay,
I'm Electro.
I get it. You're trying to reference things. You're trying to reference things that people like, but like, you don't need to put in the fucking dubstep.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't need that. No one remembers Electro. No one liked Electro. You could make a totally new soundtrack song for him, and people would just be like, "Oh, Electro's here from Spider-Man 2. Cool, that's pretty neat."
Yeah,
Like,
I don't.
Could have just done that.
I don't know what's like. I didn't understand the appeal.
Other character?
I didn't understand the appeal in that movie, and I guess I was kind of surprised that they brought him back for this one. But I think they do good work with him in this one.
I agree, but it's just like that's the one weird thing where my brain's just like, you didn't do that with any of the other characters who came back that I can recall. Just with him, you brought back his like main music gimmick. The thing that people liked the least about Electro when it came to that character in that film. Like, I always love the clip from Adam from YMS when he does the clip of, like, reading the lyrics of the song that plays for Electro. Of, like, you lied to me, you hate to me, like, shit like that.
Yeah, like, yeah.
It's such a fucking stupid set of lyrics.
It's a rough one. Definitely.
Yeah.
But
so I don't that I just wanted to talk about that.
No.
And also the fact that while he's fighting Electro and doesn't know how to beat him, Sandman also is just there too.
Yeah.
And then wants to help him.
I guess it's like, well, so I guess it makes sense because Sandman is friends with Spider-Man at the end of it all in Spider-Man 3. But it is weird that they're kind of in the same place. I don't know if like he was following Electro or what we're meant to interpret there. But it is kind of nice that they're right next to each other. I guess we could probably chalk it up to them trying to make this movie move along faster. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and that's I'll talk about it more at the end. But that's like my biggest problem with the film. It's just it's paced horribly.
It is. Its pacing's rough. There's a lot to get through. So it's definitely a situation of this is rough, but I understand why. Question for you: if a like 3-hour cut of this movie came out, would you watch it?
I would watch it to see if, because I feel like it has like a weird Spider-Man 3 problem, but with less stuff in it, if that makes sense. Like there's a lot going on, but I feel like none of it's like some of it could just be shortened to still have the same effect, you know? Like, I'm not saying that I don't mind the fact that this happened. I get it. It's for pacing. But also part of me just feels like it just is like the turn around that is what like confuses me. Like all of a sudden now after he's helped him with Electro, all of a sudden now he's like angry at him. Does that make sense?
Like Sandman is angry with him?
Yeah, Sandman's like, what'd you do to him? What are you doing? Why are you... And then he starts fighting him. Like, starts immediately trying to fight him.
Oh, I think it's just, as far as he knows, he just shot something at Electro and then he vanished. That's weird. Like, that's concerning.
But the question now becomes at what point is this Sandman at because remember, this is after he finds out who Peter Parker is. Each one of these characters find out who Peter Parker is, except for Electro, but that's an entirely different thing. They all like know who Peter Parker is at some point. So yeah. Sandman only knows Peter Parker, Spider-Man, at the end of Spider-Man 3, where he goes away.
Right, but he's friendly at that point. So my point is...
Yeah, so why does all of a sudden he turns on him after that?
Because I have to assume it's because we are now, like, so you're Flint Marco, right? Sandman. You're friends with
Mm-hmm.
Spider-Man. He's a super dude, um, who who had a dark phase. And now what's happened is you found him, kind of. He looks different, and you just
Mm-hmm.
saw him laser some guy, and made the dude vanish immediately. Like, you'd be concerned. You'd be like, "What just happened? Did you just kill that guy? What happened? What is this?"
I would also keep in mind the fact that I've been explained that that this is not my Peter, and that I am now aware of the fact that something isn't wrong here. I wouldn't immediately go on the attack. I like, okay, explain what happens or I'll attack. Like, I wouldn't just attack immediately.
I
You know what I'm saying?
Maybe. I don't know. I'd be a bit concerned.
Of course,
just one shot that guy. Like,
I'm not disagreeing with you, but it just feels for me. It just felt like, oh, now we have to fight Sandman.
All right.
The whole scene just feels weirdly paced for me.
No, that's okay. I guess it is. I guess it's nice, like, in terms of, like, for the writers, that they can just, like, all they have to do is make him do that, and then Peter immediately has an excuse to laser him back to the holding cell where we can get to our conversations that we need to get through.
Correct.
So, yeah, I think you're right. Another pacing thing.
But to answer your question, I probably would, just to see if they flesh out the right part. If they flesh out, like, the later parts of the film, I would be kind of upset. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, if they kept everything from the beginning, but, like, try to flesh out a scene that happens later, or scenes that happen later, I would be a little upset. But if they flesh out the beginning more, I think it would have been a better film.
I think that's fair. I'd certainly watch it just to see what happens. I guess I'd like to see the characters interact more, because I really like all of them. But, yeah, no, I think, like, it feels like they did the minimum to, like, get by in the beginning. Like, they made it make as much sense as they could so we could get along with our story, and it's like, okay, it's good enough. It's not great. Like, the Doctor Strange stuff is pretty unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. But then, like, the other stuff with Peter being, like, simultaneously loved and hated now, like, I think that's done well enough.
Yeah. But I feel like it should have been more in the story, like, even further down the line.
Like, it affects
It's
him later?
Yeah.
In some way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
Correct.
For what it's worth, I think J. Jonah Jameson is kind of meant to represent that faction of people.
Correct. And he appears a couple times doing that thing, so... But
yeah,
we'll get to J. Jameson here in a second.
And
Because
there's also that moment in the ground floor of the condo when he's calling for help and he gets shot at. I think that is like we understand why that happened.
Yeah.
But not to fall off of where the plot's going too much here. Let's see.
After that, they talk about the fact that I think Doc Ock is the one who points out the fact that everyone who's coming here knows who Spider-Man was.
Right.
And how it doesn't make any sense that he saw Goblin. I mean, not Goblin, but Osborn. Because Osborn died like years ago in his universe.
Right. So there's a few things now that are tricky. They seem to want to establish for us that these characters got ported right before they died. And our reference for that is Electro saying that he was like finally like gathering up all the power and he was going to ascend to a new being. And then he's like, oh my god, I was going to die. And then the other reference, Doc Ock is like he—he's about to like finally start up his collider, you know.
Super collider. He was looking for a super collider, wasn't he?
Well, I think like he was.
Remember when
he was meant to be
when
like.
he arrives.
Yeah, like for the climax of Spider-Man 2, like just arriving at his little hut on the water, and it wasn't there, and that's when he was like, "Oh my God, it's gone. Where did Spider-Man take it?" And that's when he went searching for Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So both of those are like, I guess that one's like not right before he dies, but it's close. You know, and wow, whatever I was about to say just left my head. I don't think
Did Lizard say how?
I don't think
I don't think Lizard.
I don't think
said.
Lizard says anything, and we don't know like what happens to Flint after the events of Spider-Man 3, so we don't really know about then either. And as for Green Goblin, he doesn't tell us explicitly, but there was a theory that it was, in Spider-Man 1, right before the glider hits him, and he's like, oh, there's a theory that was meant to be him coming back. But I don't necessarily ascribe to that.
I mean,
there's just nothing there for it.
It's a good thought.
It's a fun thought,
yeah,
but
it's a good. Yeah.
Yeah.
That also leads to some problems later down the line, but I'll talk about those when we get there.
Right, and of course this does lead to the problems we mentioned already in terms of it ported people who knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man here. Gwen and MJ are both not here as far as we know, and there's also other villains that in theory should be here, such as both iterations of Harry Osborn and
and another really important character. But we'll get to Eddie.
Oh, wait. When I say Eddie Brock, I meant Spider-Man 3 Eddie Brock. Were you referring to...
I'll get to that. Yeah, we'll save that for the end.
We'll save that for the end. Well, actually, that might clear something up.
No. No. We're saving that for the end.
We'll save it till the end.
And also... Well, no. That does clear something up for you, because there is something about that I'll have to talk to you about. As to why... It's hard to talk about right now. Let's just skip about it.
We'll skip it. We'll talk about the teleportation flisms at the end. But for now, we'll you're aware of what the movie says the rules are. We're aware of what those rules should mean. We'll move along. So
just know it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So I think it's at this point. I also want to say this movie does a pretty good job at respecting characters, Doctor Strange exempt. I think it does a good job at respecting the characters, especially the older ones, but it also isn't afraid to make fun of the movies they're in. And the reference for this, at least the first one, is Electro is like, yo, is that Kurt Connors? He tried to turn everyone into lizards. And then Kurt Connors is like, no, I was simply trying to evolve humans into the next step of our evolution. And he's just like, you're fucking trying to turn everyone into lizards, dude. Come on. and I think that's very funny, because I always thought that the plot of that movie was ridiculous. It's such a ridiculous thought. Yeah. And
and the fact that they're pointing that out.
Right. And I don't feel like at any point it tries to really pick on these characters. They all seem to be treated with respect, and I appreciate that a lot. Oh, and I do remember what I was going to talk about now. Doc Ock says that the dude on the glider was Norman Osborn, but there's no way that he would have known that Green Goblin was Norman Osborn, because no one was allowed to know. Because if anyone knew...
Oh, yeah.
Like, if anyone knew outside of Peter, it would have gotten to Harry. So, like, it's no good.
Oh, yeah, you're right. What the hell?
Yeah. So,
That's really fucking stupid. That's a big oversight.
That is kind of a big oversight. And it's one of those things where
It could also be easily solved here in a half a second.
Yeah, how would you solve that one? Oh, you would just have Norman get captured earlier, right?
Yes. No. Still the same plot. Have the Green Goblin there, right? Have him say like Goblin instead of Osborn, and then I'll explain what happens next, because he gets a call. Peter gets a call from his mom saying that one of the weirdos.
Aunt May, come on.
Aunt May. Did I say mom? Sorry, yeah. She looks like a mom more than an aunt. Okay, let me be fair. She looks like a mom, okay? I'm just saying. I would not mind calling her my mom. I'm just saying.
Not me, but anyway.
Anyways, so he goes there in like a big heaping like freak out, going like, "Oh shit, a crazy person's going to kill my mom." And it's just Osborn without the mask, because at this point he has like hidden the mask or destroyed the mask and has hidden the glider. And it's suggested that he has taken back control, knowing of understanding that he's in a new world and that he shouldn't interfere with it. He explains that like his family and everything doesn't exist. his empire doesn't exist, his house doesn't exist. And he goes back with Peter to where everyone's at. And at that point, when he is maskless and is showing his face, that's when Doc Ock would be like, "Wait," and then that's when he would realize that that's who he was.
So
that's when he would realize that Osborn was the Green Goblin, because he has the uniform on underneath.
I thought does he? He was wearing.
He has it underneath it.
Underneath.
He has it underneath
the
his,
hoodie that he's wearing,
like or
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like green and purple, so it matches the color scheme, friends. Of course. But yeah. Okay. All right.
That would be the moment that it's a simple fix too. Like.
Yeah. No, that makes yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's really easy. Why? Okay. There you go. There's another ding for the movie for you, friends. People play. Yeah, I've tried to explain to my friends. I didn't even remember that. I'm like, quality-wise, this movie's like a 5, but like enjoyment-wise, it was like a 9 for me. And people are like, "How does that work?" I'm like, guys, come on.
It doesn't make sense, but it's still fun.
It's not good, but it's so much fun.
Yeah, and I think that's an agreement we can actually agree upon. I don't think it's a good film, but I think it's a fun film.
I think it's got plenty of the writing problems we've discussed before, and it's got a very good production, and I think it just.
But it definitely.
I think it's really good.
It feels like the script needed to be in like the warmer for like a little longer.
Yeah, just not like.
Like do like 1 or 2 more rewrites.
Quite a few things we need to fix, but yeah, and it there's plenty of issues with this movie that like aren't really this movie's fault. Like like when judging this movie, I just ignore Loki, the TV show, because that makes everything harder. And like, yeah,
yeah,
just yeah.
Sorry. So let's get back to the film.
Right. So
at this point, I think everyone is back, and he's about to Peter or Doctor Strange is about to send everybody back to their right timelines. But before this, we had a quick talk with Aunt May. With Aunt May saying like, these people are broken and you can fix them, like kind of like focusing on the fact that, and this is something that I've never really noticed until this film pointed it out. Almost every single villain in the Spider-Man franchise definitely has something broken with them, and most of the time Spider-Man is trying to either fix them or help them, and they don't want that.
Yeah.
And this film kind of like questions that. And I do like that. I think that's a cool concept for the film to take a direction to.
Well, it's something neat about it, definitely. Because I really appreciate that. Because I had someone say that they were trying to like demonize the other Spider-Men, and I was like, no. Like, the other Spider-Men tried to save these guys and like do their best to like protect them from themselves essentially and like get them reformed, but like there just wasn't the opportunity with them. Like.
The only exception to this would be in Into the Spider-Verse with Kingpin. And there's no way you can redeem Kingpin.
Right. Well, luckily, we don't even have to deal with that because he's not here. But
yeah, but I'm just like saying like overall in all the Spider-Man films, the only one who that isn't trying to be, or doesn't, that Spider-Man doesn't try to save is Kingpin, because there's no way to save Kingpin. Because he's just a bad person.
Yeah.
he's just a bad person. He's just a big fridge man.
The large boy.
The large Xbox-sized boy.
But, yeah. So, the realization here is like we said, they were pulled from their universes just before their deaths, as we assume, from what they say. And so Strange is preparing to reverse the spell and send the villains back to their respective universes. But the argument, Peter puts forth the argument that like his Aunt May just told him, and this philosophy is well done in this film, I think. But it's the idea that we can like cure, reform these villains, and then when they get set back, like they won't have to die because they'll be fixed. Like, or at least neutralized to a point where like something else can happen. And Doctor Strange disagrees. He says for the sake of the universe we got to send him back, which I don't think is a bad argument, And honestly, like,
Mm-hmm.
if you told me we have, I forget what amount of time they say, 12 hours or 21 hours or something. If, you know, you're standing in front of me and you're like, in 21 hours our universe collapses unless we, like, you know, press this button to kill these 6 people. Like, I'm gonna have a hard time saying, you know, like, you know,
It depends on the 6 people.
there,
It depends on the 6 people.
there's not a,
If it's like,
that's not many people, and we don't have a lot of time. Like, and we don't totally know how this
but like
works.
we could at least
It's magic.
we could at least go get coffee with them. We could like go like you know, show them around some places. It's 24 hours. We have a little bit of time, you know.
Yeah. No,
Not-
well, that's the thing. Like, if Doctor Strange is like, it is definitely 100% this amount of time, then sure. But we already know that Doctor Strange has a tendency of messing up spells. I'm hesitant to 100% trust him. That's not a lot of time. I'd be a little.
I don't know.
I'd
feel
be
like
a little spooked.
if I had Tom Hanks for 20 or for around 24 hours, I'd probably not. I'd probably spend like at least a little bit of time in like a Starbucks or something. You know?
Yeah, just enough, you know. But alas, Peter's a better person than I, and then he says, "Nope, we're not doing it." And Peter and Doctor Strange get in a little fight, and so
It's pretty cool.
so this takes them outside, and they do a thing where like Peter grabs the box from him, and then Doctor Strange, like, you know, gives him you know, the punch that knocks his spirit out of his body. And he tries to grab the box from Spider-Man's body, but it doesn't work. Spider-Man keeps like moving his arm away, like keeping it away from him. And I think we're meant to believe that this is Spider-Sense.
It even it's hard to see in the film, but I noticed it even shows the like little. So in back to saying talking about this film, in Spider-Man of the Spider-Verse, they had like that weird little lines that come off their head, that like show them the same connection that they're both spider people, which is like their spider sense, and they slightly have that in this film.
Oh,
Like you can see like there's a little bit of lines on his head,
like the little squiggle like effect.
Yeah.
You might see it in a video game if
Yeah.
someone gets like stunned or something, kind of, or alerted to something, I guess. You know, just like I know what you're talking about in Spider-Verse.
Yeah, I'm looking it up for myself
Way
so I can post for it
home.
later. Like, sorry everyone.
Sorry, everyone.
Like this image, like this little like squiggly
Right,
lines.
right.
They have it.
They
it's
have it in
very
this movie?
Faint. Yeah, I saw it while we were watching it. It's very faint. I'm sure if we looked up the fight. Hold on, let me look up the fight. I'm sure the fight's already on YouTube.
I looked up
Um,
No Way Home Spider-Sense scene.
mhm.
I'm not getting pictures as helpful.
Here, I'll post it here. They're talking. I'm sure they do like a close-up shot here in a sec. Yeah, right here. It's really hard. So at 140, watch around his head. It's very hard to see, but there's like a little bit of warbling going on behind or like above his head. Watch like the windows behind him. Don't look at him, look to the windows.
Oh!
Yeah.
Ah. Okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
only happening around his head. It's not... Okay.
Yeah, it's not around him. Yeah. Now, this also brings up the problem that Spider Sense only works if he lets it work. But that's a different thing entirely.
What?
Because that in what the hell is it? In Civil War, during the fight with Spider-Man and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he gets beaten by having his spider sense. Like he knows something's approaching him, but he doesn't react in time.
Uh-huh.
But in this film, it suggests that he can do it. That it's like a reaction rather than an actual thing.
So, like, in this one?
Yeah, he's not like he's doing it automatically, but it's supposed to be like it's a small thing. It's a small thing, but the point I'm making is that it feels inconsistent because in like I said in Civil War, he has to actively use it and like react to it. In this one, he's out of his body and it's just doing it on its own. It could be because his body no longer has his mind to stop him from doing it.
Oh.
Which is
I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, I guess that makes more sense because like it would just be like a mindless body because like they can't control themselves while they're in there. So that's cool though.
It could just be his body reacting like such. Yeah, I thought it was a cool detail.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Apparently no one else noticed, but because I've also brought this up to my friend who's seen this film 5 separate times now, and he still hasn't noticed it.
The squigglies?
Like, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Friends, it reminds me of like in Halo when someone's invisible, or like in Predator when he's invisible. Like, it gives me those vibes. It's like all wavy, sorta.
I'll post it for y'all to see.
Yeah. But, okay. That's good to know. I didn't notice that. Awesome. All right. So Peter like swims back into his body, and then they go ahead with their fight. I think it essentially boils down to there's like a weird scene where Strange uses portals to like make Peter web his own leg, but then he just stays in midair when like in theory he should fall down.
I think it's just because the web is like tightened up, so he's technically attached to himself, being pulled by himself. So he is pulling his own body. If he stopped pulling, I think it would.
That doesn't make sense because he doesn't have anything like. He's not grounded on anything. It's like if you grabbed your feet really hard and stayed in the air.
I don't know what I mean, we proved one cool thing and then proved another bad thing.
Well, I think like what should happen is he should fall down because like you picture like the web goes from his arm like through the portal to his leg, and I've played enough Portal to know how portals work. So what should happen is he should either fall down and like when the web hits the portal edge it should break, or he should just like fall to like the bottom of the portal. It's not super clear if that's like a defined edge that you can like grab onto and like climb over or not. It's a thing, but yeah, again, like pretty small detail. Like even if he did fall, he probably gets out of there anyway. So
I will say, so the fight like eventually goes to like his mirror dimension.
Yeah, he like sends the cape at him. It grabs him for a sec, and then Doctor Strange yeets him into the mirror dimension, which is all the fun visuals from the Doctor Strange movie. So,
and I will say this is one of my favorite scenes because it shows a scene where Peter, like it's been noted that he's intelligent, but he doesn't get a chance to really use it during fights. And in this one, he literally does use it for like the combat. Like he realizes that it's just a place of geometry, and because he understands how geometry works, he can use it to take down. Oh my god, Doctor Strange.
So that's kind of funny because I had the opposite reaction. Really? Yeah. So I guess like when I'm picturing like this magical mirror dimension where everything is as Doctor Strange wants, I don't expect things to work that way.
To make sense.
Like I don't want that. I don't expect them to like be consistent, and like that little payoff, I'm like I could accept that. The thing is, like this fight goes on for a while, and I don't think Spider-Man ever beats Doctor Strange. And we kind of talked about earlier.
He kind of just hinders him.
How powerful Doctor Strange is. Like I don't think he stands much of a chance. Like the ability.
He mostly is on the defensive most of the fight because he's trying to hold back the box.
Right.
And I also think Doctor Strange is pulling back because he doesn't want to hurt the kid. But I feel like if this did happen, he would absolutely trump the kid.
Yeah, like I know the movie tells us he wins, but like I don't believe it because like Doctor Strange has portals. Like the ability to move someone wherever you want is like very, very good. And also, like just think about like Infinity War, the Titan fight, like where he just like separates himself into like 1,000 clones, and then they all like use the laser whip to like grab onto Thanos. Like if you did something like close to that, like what's Peter do? Like I don't.
But what's you can't. Yeah.
Yeah, but alas, Doctor
It's once
Strange
again a thing
takes
that needs
another.
to happen for the plot to happen.
Yep, takes another nail so that we can move along. And I do like the detail before all this happens. I think Peter zaps him with the like the laser that traps him in one of the cells, but Doctor Strange just walks out of it because of course the cell wouldn't work on him. Like that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But
100%.
I think this scene I think something else needs to happen with this scene for it to like work better.
Makes sense.
Yeah, be more believable. But alas, Peter webs him up.
The one thing and the one last thing before we leave this scene is he grabs the portal thing from Strange.
Yeah, the sling ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, and leaves him in the mirror dimension, all webbed up. And we learned in Homecoming that those webs dissolve after like 2 hours, so that's one thing. But without his sling ring, Doctor Strange, as far as we know, can't get out of there. So that's interesting.
Yup.
That's gonna be a thing. Anyway, so I guess it's at this point we get to move on from there.
Yeah, I have nothing else to say about that.
Okay. So at that point, Peter and Aunt May take all the villains to. We kind of missed this earlier. Happy.
Yeah, it wasn't important.
Yeah, Happy lets them live in his condo because like they're getting bricks thrown in their window back at home. So they all go to Happy's place, and it's got some security, and so like there's like a recording of like Peter and Aunt May walking in with all these like electric guy and the cyborg Doc Ock and like all these things. There's a little joke in that later, but they all go back there.
I do have a slight question for you real quick.
Yeah.
Does anybody care about Happy anymore? Like,
no.
Like, he's just kind of there.
I'm not convinced they ever did. I mean, like...
Did no one care about Happy?
It's just weird, because he's, like, chief of security in Iron Man 1, and, like, he's, like, a goofy guy, right? He's not... I don't think he's, like, dumb or incompetent. He's never seen to be. But he is, like... He's a goofy guy. He's comic relief. So it's just kind of weird that he's in that position. And then he's got, like, really nice moments in Far From Home, where he's like explaining that it's really hard to live up to Iron Man because like he's so great and like so revered by everybody. But yeah, he's mostly used for jokes in this movie. There was a thing where he said that he liked Aunt May, like was romantically interested in her at the end of the last movie, and then at the beginning of this one they're breaking up and he's like crying about it through most of the movie. Which, it's like, I feel like it's mostly played for jokes, and it's, I don't know.
Especially with what happens later, it feels very gross. I'm just going to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not, yeah, back and forth. I don't think he's like, terrible in terms of like characterized or anything. It's just, it's strange to see him in the situations that he's in. A lot of the time, but he does drive home a lot of the emotional payoffs. I think there's 2 in this film, and one of them is a world building problem. But we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there.
We're already talking more about this film than we did fucking the last Willem Dafoe movie. So
yeah. Oh my God, we have a Willem Dafoe meme. Folks. I never realized.
Yeah, this is our second one.
Yeah. All right.
Let's make it 3.
Oh, we did Spider-Man 1.
Oh shit, that's right. So we have 3 now.
Yeah. So
holy shit.
Let's see.
So they bring them back to Happy's house.
Yep.
Yeah.
Happy's got the fabricator there that they used in the last movie to make the new Spider-Man suit, and they're like, okay. And go ahead.
You're good. I was gonna say Osborn at this point has control of himself. And has offered to help help Peter with helping these people with that thing.
Yeah. Osborn at least seems to be a good guy right now, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he got all these ideas to try to help all these people, like we said, fix them, neutralize them, whatever it may be, fix them. In theory,
Mm-hmm.
there's a nice little payoff to that term, like fixing them. Well, we can get into it when it happens if I remember. But essentially, they're all there and they get to work on making various tools to help solve our characters' problems. And
Mm-hmm.
let's see. So the first one is successful. It's like a new inhibitor chip for Doc Ock. And so,
Mm-hmm.
you know, one piece of acting talent that I really appreciate, well, I guess script talent that I appreciate about all this is Doc Ock is always saying "we" in reference to him and the
Mm-hmm.
tentacles, because like they're speaking to him. They're always saying "we" in a conversation, and then Peter.
I I also think it's not even him being included. I think we is literally in reference to the tentacles who have taken over his mind now. There's no Doc there anymore. It's it's not we with him. It's we the tentacles.
You think so? I was always under the impression that he's still there, but like he's just talked down so much by these tentacles, like they're just overwhelming.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not him who's talking. It's the tentacles who are using him to talk.
Okay.
Think of him like a puppet. Like he's basically their puppet.
Right. And then
Mm.
one thing I want to make kind of clear for this, like for it to work. So Peter has control of the tentacles' movements, but they still have the mind control, as it were, the influence. I'll say, because I think that's
Yeah.
more adept, or akin to what it really is. They still have the influence
Mm-hmm.
over him, which I remember thinking didn't make a ton of sense. But like, as long as you allow them that, like the rest all plays out. And I guess like I don't know. You can kind of make that work in your head that like they can't control themselves, but they still are like saying like the things.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so he plugs the new inhibitor chip in, and Otto Octavius is back. He's like, "Oh, back. The voices are gone," and he goes, back to speaking in first person, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a real nice little moment. And there's sort of like this aura of hope that's kind of come up now. It's like finally like things are working out, and then
They might be able to fix everybody now.
right.
Now, while this is all going on, Electro and Sandman are kind of just like, "Oh, this is stupid. This is dumb. Why are we doing this? This is a waste of our time." Yada 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 yada.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess we should talk a bit about motivation. Oh, and we should
mm.
also mention Lizard opted to stay in the van or the truck for some reason.
Yeah,
So he's
yeah.
outside, and I think that's fine because you probably don't want to like see him walk up and through this building, but it seems to be played for a
How are they gonna
joke, and
fix
it's kind of
him?
weird. Yeah, I guess they could
Yeah.
deliver something to him, but it
Once again, the problem is that they wanted him to be there, but they couldn't get the original actor,
yeah.
so it felt like a situation like they wanted the Sinister Six, but they didn't want to fully commit.
Could they just not get him
I
as the actor, or was he like refusing? Do we know?
I think it's literally just like he just didn't want to do it. I don't know the details of it. I just heard that it's not the same actor.
We think the same thing happened with Sandman.
Sandman I thought was the same actor. I'm pretty sure he looked the same.
So I meant to look into this before this, but all those seeing Sandman, that wasn't him live. That was recycled clips from Spider-Man 3.
Yeah, plays. That's the same guy. Thomas Hayden Church plays Flint Marko or Sandman in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Right, but those clips aren't of him. Like they're not shot for this movie. They were reused from Spider-Man 3.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
And because he's only like in his human form for like one or two
Mm-hmm.
scenes, and it, I don't remember if it was one or two, but I distinctly remember thinking, oh wait, no, I recognize that, like the facial expression with the movement, like the like exact piece of footage they're using. I'm like, I recognize that from Spider-Man 3 because I watched it not too long ago. Like this is reused, and his
Oh,
voice was
okay.
slightly off. Not enough for it to like be like really immersion breaking or anything, but it was like, oh, I don't think this is the same guy talking. And he was Sand the whole time. like
Mm-hmm.
in the movie, and I
And they made a joke about it too.
right, and yeah, I think that's just a lampshade because it's like they don't have him back. At least that's that's what I assume happened based on what information I have. Like I said, I meant to look more into it
Yeah,
before this, but I forgot to.
all good.
Yeah, but alas, there is a moment I want to mention where feels bad, man. Forget exactly the dialogue. Someone says to Osborn, like, gonna be back to just you in there or something. And then in
Mm-hmm.
like really quietly in the Green Goblin voice, he's like, just me or something like that along those lines.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah, I know what scene you're talking about.
yeah,
It's weird.
and it's a little setup because what ends up happening is after Octavius is cured, uh, Peter's in the back with the fabricator, and then his spider sense starts going off. So he's like walking around, he's looking at everybody. And I think at this point Electro is plugged in. He's got like something attached to his chest,
Yeah.
and they say that it's like it's taking his power away. And he's like, I don't really like this. You know, you can tell he's really flustered or like hesitant about it. And it's like ticking down as it like
Mm-hmm.
draws all the power out of him. So that's going on, and then Spider-Man is walking around, and people are like, "Why are you looking at us weird?" Because he's like trying to follow the spider sense, and then he ends up webbing
Mm-hmm.
Green Goblin, like his hand and whatever he's got in his hand, and yeah, Norman's like, "That's a neat trick you got there," or something. And so yeah, the Goblin persona
So
is taken back over.
my question to this is, what the fuck did he like grab from his hand? Do we actually know?
Um, it was definitely one of the things that was gonna fix one of the villains. I don't know if it was like his cure specifically or what.
I think it was because I think I remember him stabbing himself with it, or oh no, he broke it or something, and then Aunt May grabbed the rest of them.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Because I
I'm
know they still
pretty.
have his
Yeah.
cure, because they try to inject him with it later. And he's like, it didn't work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm,
It's a weird moment.
yeah. But he
Like
kind
I
of.
don't think it was shot well. Yeah, I don't think it was shot for me to understand. My dumb baby brain didn't get the shot.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he was holding. I would have to give it a rewatch.
Mm.
But he sort of gives a little speech about how like about power mostly, and about how like gods like take what they want, and they're like I might be combining speeches at this point because he has a lot of really good dialogue, but the idea essentially of like you're powerful, you can take what you want, stop letting morality get in your way, that sort of thing.
Mm.
So
Yeah, he's basically just trying to turn the villains against Spider-Man, even though like one of them has been helped and the others have been shown that the fixes work. He's mostly trying to just convince them that they aren't broken
right,
when they clearly are.
and it sort of works. Electro
Yeah.
like rips off the thing that was taking his power away and escapes. Uh, Sandman floats away. Um, After like the fight starts going on, Doc Ock just runs away, and I think that's rightfully so. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, considering like the situation, it's not really like clear why at the time, but you know, upon thinking about it, it's like, oh, this doesn't seem like a really good fight. We probably need to like regroup or something. So I can understand him leaving. It's just weird that he didn't try to like, well,
Save
yeah,
Aunt May.
yeah, it seems like something he
Like,
would
come
do.
on, man. Yeah,
Especially
it's an
since like
innocent woman.
his wife got killed like in his experiment. Like I don't know. I think he'd go through a lot to try to like save her. But alas, he runs off, and Peter and Osborn have a fight. And I don't know about you, but I liked this fight a lot. It is brutal. Like
It's definitely a fight where they're not holding back, or at least Osborn isn't. Now that he's like able to like take down, he's able to fight another Spider-Man who's clearly less aware, who's easier to manipulate because he's like a young person.
yeah, and just like in terms of like the sound design and like the acting, like I don't know about you, but I really felt all the punches that were getting thrown. Like everything feels heavy and impactful. Like it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel like the. I'm trying to think of like other times when like melee combat is involved in Marvel. Like I feel like a lot of times in Marvel movies,
You have a lot to choose
it's
from.
like hitting punching bags almost, or like
Yeah.
bobbleheads. Like you hit them, it like discombobulates them for a second, then they're fine, and then they hit back. But like this one in
Mm-hmm.
particular, and like the end of the Civil War fight, this one more so I think than the end of the Civil War fight. Like every punch just feels really hard and impactful, and like it's rough to watch. And there's even like this really creepy scene where Peter's like punching him in the face, and as he's doing it repeatedly, and like Green Goblin just keeps smiling more and more as he does it. It's just
I think you're at the that's the end.
is that at the end?
That's at the end.
Okay. Well, they also no, fair enough. They also do uh like punching each other through walls, and like I think at one point he like Goblin like steps on Spider-Man or like jumps on him, and it like goes through multiple layers of flooring. It's just a mess. Whole fight.
It's really just to show like how it's supposed to show their actual strength, um, which I appreciate a lot. Like this is one time where like I feel like these two villains or these two characters are on equal grounds, and it's not the equal ground of, oh, they're the same character but evil. It's these two characters are powerful for different reasons, but they both are pretty fucking strong.
Yeah, like we know Spider-Man's really
Like,
strong from the
mhm,
good old Civil War scene where he like catches a bus, and plus everything we've seen since then. And then
mhm,
Goblin's strong from the serum, but like he's super strong in this, like to be taking on that guy,
mhm.
that Spider-Man. So yeah, really good, really impactful.
Agreed. I think the only thing that really ruins it for me is just once again, motherfucking lizard just leaves too.
Right, so Lizard gets tipped off for whatever reason. J. Jonah Jameson's outside. He arrived here
Yeah.
because he found out. I don't remember. Does something tip him off?
So this is a while back. They saw Peter Parker going to Feast, which is where Aunt May works, and
Oh,
then they
that's
follow
right.
him around there. And then once it starts happening, that's when J. Jonah Jameson gets there. It was like, all right, which room are they in? Like, oh, we don't know. He's like, what do you mean you don't know? And yada yada yada.
Right, right, right.
I like how we were going to talk about J. Jonah, but like he's such an afterthought in our thought process
Well,
because he's just kind of there.
there's not like a scene by scene summary that I can find on Google, so I'm just looking at the wiki page and just to keep track of
Yeah.
everything. And it's not mentioning him. So I think we're just going to have to like summarize it at the end.
The big thing. So I mean, this is like the second to last scene with Jonah in it. But they showed at the start that he's just some guy in a basement recording this, which is weird because the end of the second movie suggests otherwise. That like he's a big deal, but then this movie suggests that he doesn't have any money to his name until he starts talking about Spider-Man, and then all of a sudden he becomes a rich person
Yeah,
and like has a whole studio. It feels weird.
I think it follows a through line, the sense that like he's just a guy, like pretty good production values, but essentially running a YouTube channel out of his basement with like minimal staff and like half decent equipment, and like he's trying to make
Yeah.
something of himself. And then like the big scoop comes in, and like that's what gets him all the views and all the advertising money and the Patreon subs and whatnot. But what's weird about
And
it
the
is
not so subtle nod. Sorry. Go ahead.
right. Well, should we just get that out of the way? He's like selling supplements on his show, which is
Yeah,
just
I love how they try to make him like a sympathetic Alex Jones. Nice job there, Marvel.
yeah. Well,
That's
there have been jokes about
I like cringed.
having a conservative read on this movie because
Hmm.
they say the boy, here we go, got to be subtle with these. So there's that. J. Jonah Jameson is never wrong. Like he presents information as
Yeah.
it's given, and like it's correct to a degree. So like the idea that Marvel's saying Alex Jones is right to a degree is kind of funny. And then also they go over how like Spider-Man, didn't get prosecuted because the charges didn't stand because he didn't break any laws. However, the people will still think that he's done something terribly wrong. And without being too obvious, let's just say that something similar to that may have happened in the news cycle fairly recently. So there have been jokes about this movie having a conservative read, which I think is very funny. But
it's just like part of me is just like, yeah, I get what you're trying to say, but like, could you be a little subtle about it for fuck's sake?
yeah, that's the thing.
Like
I figured there would be like a better Alex Jones joke involved. Like, I don't know, even referencing like turning the frogs gay or something. But that's it. The entirety of the joke is he sells supplements. So it's like, oh,
yeah,
we could have. There was more to be done here, I
you
think.
didn't need to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You didn't even need to. You didn't even need to do it, but you did it anyways because it
feels like
it's
doing the bare
it feels like
minimum.
a spit in the face of. Yeah, it feels like a spit in the face. I'm just gonna say to J. Jonah, it feels like a spit. Like, yes, his character originally in the original films was supposed to be someone who was a tabloid writer, and I get if you want to turn that into the idea of him like making false information himself. I get that if that's what you're trying to suggest. Like, tabloids now have become like conspiracy theory shit, but you could have played that up and like. They make a mention that some article read that MJ read was that he creates like he mind controls MJ. You could have had it heard simply just said that J. Jonah said that, and like that could have played into the whole conspiracy nut part of it. But they didn't do that. Like it's they had it in the script for him to do it, but they didn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just feels weird. Like, I get the joke they were going for, and obviously, I don't know, James, do you think... I can never be sure. Do you think Alex Jones has any good points?
I haven't heard enough of Alex Jones's points to know for sure. I'm sure he speaks truths every once in a while, though. I am only familiar with the memes, I'm afraid.
I mean, that's the best way to know him.
Fair enough.
It's a very strange. It's very strange, just to say the least.
I found it quite funny that in many ways J. Jonah is correct, and it's just this is another one of those things where I feel like I might have put more thought into it than the writers did, because it's like, oh, you could totally read this. I'm sure not the way that they intended, and it would be valid. Yeah. So, and I think that's quite funny.
Yeah. But speaking of lizards and the lizard people taking over.
Yeah, so J. Jonah's outside at this point, and he's like gonna go try to get footage, and then Lizard just bursts out of the truck and runs away. And J. Jonah,
his literal excuse is like, I see it's begun, and then fucking dips.
Yeah, and J. Jonah's just like, did anyone else see that?
He's like asking the guy who's filming, he's like, did you record that? Did you get that?
Right.
And like, dude. Come on.
That's a weird one.
Yeah.
Alright. So I guess we should move along. The battle brings them to the lobby of the condo. And at this point, like, Peter is battered. Like, he's not straight up not having a good time.
Wait, James, we have to do spoiler warning at this point, I think.
Oh, all right. Here you go.
I think this is a good spoiler warning.
An additional spoiler warning. This will be for the remaining payoffs of the movie, along with what I would say are the hardest hitting emotional scenes.
So
was that it?
You know it's time for. Yeah. I think we should give the rating and then go from there.
All right.
Actually, so it's a weird one. I think we should wait till the end on this time. Actually,
all right.
I think we should wait till
the end. Haha.
Yeah, we tricked you. Go see the film first.
It honestly goes.
Don't listen to.
Go if you enjoyed.
I would still say go see it.
I would say go see it. I had a lot of fun with it. if your options are have a movie with bad plot that doesn't have very satisfying payoffs versus have a movie with bad plot that has great characters and amazing payoffs, then like yeah, I'd probably go for that one every time. Did you see
James, what film are you talking about?
did you see this?
Whatever could you talk about?
Did you see the Suicide Squad, the new one?
Yeah.
I
did.
I feel very similar ways about this movie and that one. I think both movies. I think I like this one more. Well, this one breaks space and time more, but has better characters as far as I'm concerned. But like that's another one where like the writing's rough and the plot is almost nonsensical, but I really like what's done with the characters, and I think the comedy is well done. So it's like I said, an average score, but I liked it a lot.
I thought you were referring to Matrix.
I haven't seen that one yet, though I've heard something.
Nor have I. Yeah.
Well,
so I thought you were trying to make a jab at that.
I guess
if you had to choose between those two films in the theaters, I would also agree. Go see Spider-Man.
I guess if I were to jab at a movie that I think does plot poorly and doesn't have very satisfying payoffs, probably like The Last Jedi, or like plot poorly.
The Last Jedi.
Yeah, Last Jedi again. Rise of Skywalker. Star Wars.
Star Wars and
yeah.
sequel series.
I'd probably
general.
point at like a couple of the Mandalorian episodes when it comes to the idea of like flashing the characters you love in front of you versus having them do like substantive things that like should be appreciated more. We'll get into that though.
Which we'll talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But speaking of, so spoiler warning. I'm actually gonna put a timestamp up when we can talk about we will give the review points, so you can go see that if you want.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We're giving the spoiler warning like right at 2 hours, Lamau. Or at least 2 hours on my recording.
Yeah. If people are still listening.
Yeah. Take a break, you know, like you can like listen to us on your drive to work or like while you're eating something, but like don't consume all this at once. No.
Please don't.
Yeah, there's no need.
If we could edit these down, we would. We swear.
Well, I don't want to like miss things that I think are important. You know, like I could.
True.
We could do like a quick, Jeremy Johns review if we wanted, but like I feel like you miss so much with those. So.
True.
Yeah.
And it allows us to also remember the things we have to talk about the film.
Right. And for what's worth, we did say pretty early, I like it a lot, and you don't like it as much. So like, if that's all people were looking for, they could have stopped there.
True. But I feel like I need to defend my point at some point because I've already gotten a lot of shit from people saying that not shit like, oh, you're a horrible person, but more like, how did you not like it?
Well,
so at least here I could tell them why.
I'll admit, when you told me that you don't think you like it that much, I was like, now, I was like, I'm very interested in this. Did character payoffs not work, or do you think the plot is bad and that's why you don't like it? Because it is bad, and that's a good reason not to like it. But like, I was like, I wonder. But we'll get through it all by the end.
We're about to get to one problem that I have the film.
Oh
right
now. No, not this one.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's this one.
All right. We'll try. What do you say we try to do the same thing a second time where we go over everything that happens, like just the summary of what happens, and then we go through the specific elements of it?
I want to talk about this one.
All right. You want to?
I need to talk about. So
you want to give the summary? All right.
I'll take this over.
All right.
So yeah, spoiler talk now. So while the fight is currently happening, Aunt May is making her way downstairs to the front room or the main building to escape. And as she does so, as soon as she gets back down all the way down to the stairs, I think she interacts with somebody, doesn't she? It's not important. She has a small interaction with someone and then manages to escape. And then when she gets there, the Green Goblin and Spider-Man are both there. And at this moment, the Goblin makes a mention about things he loves, I believe, and then throws a bomb. Now Peter Parker is fine because he's got super strength and yada yada yada. But the one person who isn't fine is Aunt May, because currently Aunt May is she's only human. Like when this first happened and Aunt May started talking, my brain was just like, no, she didn't survive that. Fuck you, movie. That's there's no fucking way she survived that. And then she says the line, the very famous line of, with great power comes great responsibility, and then that's when she starts bleeding out. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like as soon as she said that line, my brain's like, oh, okay, so she's dead. This is how she dies. This is where she dies. But like, part of me feels like her face should have been a little more burnt. Like, you got hit with a fucking bomb. How the fuck did you just, like, get stabbed a little bit? The last time a human took that type of bomb to the face, if you remember in the first movie, they turned to skeletons.
Ah, so funny you should mention that. So,
like,
a couple things I want to hit on first, because I think you've got your events
right?
slightly messed up.
How do you mean?
So they arrive at the lobby, and she gets there too. She hits him with the cure, as it were. It's like a syringe. She like jabs it into his neck. He takes it. He like.
I remember her just stabbing something.
Yeah, he like locks up for a sec, and then he's like, "It didn't work," and like slaps her away or something. At some point, the glider comes in, and I think that's what we should say deals the killing blow, because it just slams into her from behind, and it's there's a lot of force behind it. I would I hesitate to say expect her to die at that point, but it's a hard hit. It's a hard hit. I would start calling plot armor if she survived these events. And then the bomb happened. And when it comes to the bomb, that's a point in time where I'm like, all right, we're really stacking up the damage here. But with that said, there's more than one kind of bomb. There has to be. Because in Spider-Man 1, he throws the bomb at some, like the board members of Oscorp, and it vaporizes them, turns them to skeletons. It doesn't turn them to skeletons. Anyway, but then it's...
I like that bomb. No, that's a better bomb.
But then in Spider-Man... Well, he throws one at Peter at the end of Spider-Man 1, and it's just an explosion that like knocks off bits of his suit and his mask. And then in Spider-Man 3, Peter throws one at Harry after he's beaten him in the secret laboratory in his penthouse. And that just leaves him with the big old face scar, which granted, seems to be more than Aunt May got. So I want to defend. There's more than one. There has to be more than one kind of bomb, or these movies are a lot more inconsistent than I thought. And with that said, she takes a pretty light hit from this less powerful bomb. So fair enough.
Because of course, he's okay. You know what? You got me on that point.
Yeah.
The more important thing I want to talk about with Aunt May though is, it feels like this is the first movie where Aunt May's kind of doing things and talking to Peter. Like he's made mention before that Aunt May helped him with things, and I can't like recall in my memory what she helped him with besides like I guess setting up events for when he's Spider-Man, but that's literally it. Like I can't really think of anything like in my head that like makes me think that she had an effect on him as Spider-Man, you know?
I guess just like
until this movie where like she starts giving him advice, and at that point my brain's like, okay, so something's gonna happen to her at this movie.
You feel like they're trying to catch up at this point.
Yeah,
I gotcha.
My brain's just like, okay, so now she's starting to talk. This is suspicious. She said the line. That's it.
I guess like I think you're right. I'm trying to think back. Like she does a lot of like helping him like get ready for like Homecoming and Spider-Man Homecoming. And she's not really in Far From Home, which makes sense because they're far from home. But
the problem
I guess
then
I see what you're saying. Well, I guess it just has to be implied because, you know, obviously like it's just them together, and she's always been like really sweet and supportive of him. But like, yeah, I guess it hasn't not too much on-screen time for that relationship, I suppose.
So it doesn't feel as genuine when she says the line, because my brain just like, this doesn't sound like how she would word this.
Well, I think it's prompted in a way, because she doesn't just say it. They have a conversation.
No, yeah.
I think the meaningful parts of this conversation are the ones that are going to go, I don't want to say over people's heads, but the parts that people are going to forget about. Because he's like, oh man, like I feel bad, like you're hurt now, and like they all got away and like we shouldn't have done this. And she's like, she shuts that down right away. She's like, no, you did the right thing trying to help them. Like it sucks that it didn't work out, but like you don't feel bad for trying to help people. And like that's sort of a message that's kind of been trying to get conveyed throughout this whole trilogy. It's all been Peter trying to grapple with like he has this power. What does he need to do? Because in Homecoming he's like unwilling to let anything bad happen to anyone, and it like he's gonna get burnt out from it. And
on top of that, like even in Homecoming, in Homecoming, he also was like super active with the whole Spider-Man thing, and he thought because he had that power, that means he needs to keep doing things with it.
Right.
Like he would just go out randomly as Spider-Man and just do random things for people.
Well, he's
like when some guy asked him to do a flip, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'll do a flip. We'll do cool tricks to show him."
Yeah, he's just doing little stuff like helping like old lady across the street and stuff like that. And he even says,
he doesn't feel like that's enough.
Right. Well, he says in Civil War, in like his introductory scene, he's like, if you've got like the power to prevent something bad from happening and you don't, then like you might as well have done it. And that's not something I agree with, and he doesn't at this point either. But like, I guess my point is, there's a really sweet progression of character that's happening, and that's why I think this is probably my favorite Spider-Man, because I think the journey is really good. And we've talked about the comics already, but like for a comic viewer, like this is a pretty good, like this is all like the prequel to like what Spider-Man would become later, to like what a Tobey Spider-Man would be more like, in theory.
And on top of that, I do think the way that they presented the Greater Power thing was different enough from the other ones to be effective. Because in this situation, I don't really think she's referring to Peter himself. I think she's referring to just them in general, to the villains in general, because they are not responsible with the power they were given. He is, though.
Yeah, I totally
need
think
to learn
you're right.
that lesson. Yeah, and Peter has learned this lesson. They have not, and they will refuse to.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm more saying that I feel like they should have like fleshed out. You've convinced me. This is a good scene. I'm just saying they should have fleshed out Aunt May more in the other films.
And
if they were going to suggest that she was connected to Peter in some way with the powers.
And I can allow that. I think I'm okay with that. At a point, I wonder like how much we need. But I think you're right. I think a lot is like almost made up for in this movie. Like they try to catch up with everything they talked about before, which they're like previous, because they had a conversation about this previously in regard to Osborn, where he says like it's not his responsibility to fix them, and she's like, maybe not, but like why wouldn't you? I think like the exact thing that they say is, he's like oh god.
Like why not at least try?
Something she says like
something like that. Yeah.
Like it's not your place, or it's easier for you not to, or something like that, to kind of imply that he's wrong and he should like put in the effort for this. And I do like. I think they're like how good their relationship is like really expressed in this scene, when like he's just like trying to like keep her safe, and then he sees the blood on his hand, which makes sense because he's like holding her from behind, or like she's like laying down and he's like holding her, and that makes sense because that's where she got hit by the glider. And then when she sees the blood on his hands, the first thing she says is, "Oh, are you okay?" Like I love that.
Yeah. Also, I'm sorry, but I was about to make a Mulan reference. Like, this is a realistic stab wound.
Oh God. Oh no.
I'm just saying, like.
Freaking Mulan, dude.
Can't escape it. New year, new Mulan.
This is a much better movie than Mulan remake, just so everyone knows.
I think that should be our new rating system. What movie's better than the Mulan remake?
All right. We'll include that in our ratings from now on. But
oh my god. So yeah, you've convinced me that scene's good.
Yeah. And then
after that, I think we cut to his friends, right?
I just want to hit on
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, it's all good. As she's dying, there's police outside, and Happy Hogan pulls up at some point, and like he's got like a really devastated look, and like he looks inside the building. Some people found it kind of comical how he just pulls up right to like the front of the building while there's like a fire and like the building's a mess, and I understand that, but like he pulls up and he like looks inside and sees her on the ground with Spider-Man holding her, and like he's just like, you know, he's got that look where he's like, oh, he knows what happened here, like, and he's devastated by it as well. And then like the real like kick while you're down is he's calling for help while she's dying in his arms, and there's police outside, and they like don't do anything to help, and as far as they know he's like, you know, the Mysterio killer, so they're all concerned. And then at one point they like take a shot at him, and I think it hits him in the shoulder or something, and then he just runs away after, which like rightfully so, but that's like oof, you know.
James, do you think the police would ever help someone who's injured?
Well, he's white.
Political joke. Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
If it was Miles Morales, different situation.
Right.
Actually, no. That
No, wait.
Spider-Verse, it was handled better.
Yeah. And also, there's an
Damn.
explosion. Fire and rescue should be there. Like it. Oh man, like real bummer. Real. Yeah, that whole thing hit me pretty hard in the theater. And then I think that cuts. I can't be sure.
That cuts to his friends.
I don't know if that's right. I think. Are you sure, or does it cut to the? I almost said Alex Jones. Does it cut to the J. Jonah Jameson spot where he's like on the big screen, and he's talking about like like terrible thing happened here. Spider-Man was here, and like they're like he gets in this fight, and who's forced to clean up the mess? It's us. It's you, the normal people of this world, and everything that Peter touched or Spider-Man touches like just gets ruined. And it's like zooming out from like the big screen where that's like on display in Times Square. It's not in Times Square,
like
but you know what I'm talking about, like the huge like billboard almost.
The Blade Runner 2049 scene.
Yeah. And as it's and damn it.
Like, you can't tell me I'm wrong, right?
No, it's perfect.
He's got the same face and everything during that scene too.
And just yep. Wow. Well, I can't get that out of my head now. But
I was thinking that in my head. So in the theater, I went to go see this. I saw it with Pat, and like by myself, I'm like seeing the scene, and I have to hold back a laugh because we're just surrounded by people, and I knew if I laughed, I'd be seen like an asshole for laughing.
For laughing after Aunt May dies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I can't help it.
There you go,
My brain was
people.
just
The
like-
mindset of someone who really enjoyed this movie versus this. Oh no!
I waited for J. Joe to say like tears in rain. Oh fuck! I'm sorry.
That's all right. But alas, Peter's just watching this and like crying.
And then I think it cuts to his friends.
And and well, that is what's kind of nice about it, is that you can see that like he sort of believes this to a degree, because he didn't have to help these guys, but he tried, and now they're out. They're probably causing problems. He's hurt, and his aunt's dead. Like, man, what a
shitty day.
What a bad day. So, and then you're right. Then it cuts to his friends. You want to take this scene? You want to take it away?
Yes. So his friends Ned and MJ are together, and at this point, by the way, so Ned has the Doctor Strange ring.
Oh yeah.
And there was a joke he made later.
We forgot to set that up.
Earlier. Yeah, he made a joke earlier about I believe I have magic powers. I feel a tingling sometimes, and Doctor Strange's like, oh, you should go see a therapist. Yada yada yada. As soon as he says he wishes he could see Peter Parker, as like doing like a wavy hand, he realizes he's making a portal, and his brain's like, oh, I actually do have magical powers. Holy crap. So he summons Peter. And this is where like this is like a weird technicality for this spell to work. Um, Tobey Maguire appears as
Andrew
Spider-Man.
Garfield shows up first. Come on.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was getting ahead of myself. I was excited. Yeah, Andrew Garfield shows up, and everybody in the theater clapped. But this, in my brain, while everyone was clapping, I'm like, so that means everyone, including Peter Parker, everyone who knows who Spider-Man is, including Peter Parker himself, is now in this dimension.
Hey, I mean, Peter Parker knows who Spider-Man is. It makes sense to me.
Yeah. So then my brain was just like, so there should be more Peters, right? There's more than just 3 Peters who know who Peter Parker is, or who Spider-Man is. But we only have 3 in this film.
I mean...
But we already know of 7 other Spider people.
So, as much as I would love to see Nicolas Cage in this movie as Spider-Man Noir, and as great as I think that would be...
It just feels like a weird technicality, right?
No, you're right. I think like the only argument you can make is that, similar to the villains, not every person who knew, or not every Peter spawned in New York, and I guess after 3 tries, Ned just happened to land on the Peter he was looking for.
No, remember, he only spawned the 2 Peters. And then they asked MJ if he had a place he liked to go to.
Oh, that's right.
And then they went there.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
So they didn't go look for Peter, or they didn't like teleport to
Peter.
They
didn't
just
keep trying.
Went to Peter. Which, you know what? I'll give them that. So they didn't keep doing that bit, because I feel like there was more Peters there than at that time, especially given a scene near the end of the film.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a thing.
But we'll get to that. We'll get to
that one.
So
yeah,
the Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire show up.
I want to point out a couple of details that I love about these scenes. For one, that Ned opens the portal. They like look out and they see someone who looks like Spider-Man, but his eyes are a little bigger than normal. And I'm like, that people in the theater at that point are like, oh, I know what's happening here. And he comes through the portal, and it's Andrew Garfield. And you may have missed it over the howling in your theater, but after he takes off the mask, Ned's just like, oh, it's just some guy.
No, I heard that.
Okay, I was gonna say I think that's very funny.
They left a brief pause in that statement so everyone could finish their clapping.
Yeah, my people didn't. I'm not, just so everyone's clear, I don't believe in clapping in the theater. Not during the movie, certainly not when it ends, and I also don't believe in clapping when your airplane lands safely. Not a thing I will be doing. However, I empathize with this one. I just quietly was giddy. That's all I did.
The one thing I have a confession to make. I did give a little happy cheer when I saw Tobey Maguire. And that's just because I legitimately did not expect him. I knew that that Andrew Garfield was going to be there, and if it was just Andrew, I would have been okay. That makes sense. You couldn't get the guy people liked. It's fine. But then he appeared. I'm like,
oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah. I apologize. I wish not to have done it, but I had a visceral reaction of like the Spider-Man I did enjoy watching being up there again. But that's like, they got me. They got me. I can't admit they got me. That's all it was.
Yeah. It's sort of, we'll talk about the substance behind it later. But I always I'm never really a big fan of people like having such like outbursty reactions when it's just seeing something you recognize. I like there to be a bit more substance behind it, which the other Spider-Men in this movie, like, they do a lot of things that are like really satisfying to see. There's one particularly strong payoff that we will talk about that I'm sure everyone already knows about. You know which one I'm talking about. Yeah. But like, it's those things that I think really show the substance and the quality and the skill, like, of the craft of making and writing a story. But alas, this part is, as far as I'm concerned, a key jingle, and or a jangle, my bad, and it certainly
Hmm.
worked on me. But yeah, and
I originally did have a slight problem with this. I felt like so this was when I came to the theater. I thought this, and as I've given it more thought, I kind of disagree with it. One of the other things I would have changed is having them arrive earlier and kind of like helping guide Peter with trying to fix them. But then as I realized that thought, I'm like, no, that would feel like they're just trying to like retrend off the Spider Verse, and I am kind of glad they didn't. They waited till after he was at his lowest point to help him get back up. So
yeah,
that's just a thought I did have, but I'm happy they didn't do it.
yeah, I am very Spider-Verse is very good and I love it, but I am happy
Mm.
that this movie and that movie aren't very similar.
Mm-hmm.
But let's see. Just to finish off this scene, it is quite entertaining, I think, because they don't really believe that Andrew Garfield is Spider-Man, so he like reaches his hand up and like sticks to the ceiling, and then they're like, "No, it's not good enough. Crawl around," and he's like, I'm not going to crawl around." It's like all his reactions feel really like human and like realistic,
Yeah.
and
He's like, I'm not some fucking
I'm not gonna do like
plaything. I'm
a
not
little
gonna.
show for you. This is clearly good enough to
Mm.
prove that I'm Spider-Man. And then Ned's I don't know, aunt or grandma is like, could you clear the cobwebs in that corner out? And he's just like, and then he like crawls around up there to go get him. It's very entertaining, and all the Spider-Men, in terms of their acting, do very well in this movie. I understand the craze behind them, and I think people have always regarded Andrew Garfield as not being the bad part of those Spider-Man movies. But like anyone who had doubts
It was
before should be like convinced now. Like he's quite good.
that was the one thing I was told about when I came in because I like I said I knew about Andrew Garfield and people were like, do not worry, he's not badly written. They fixed him, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna believe you. I'm going to believe you. I went in going like, oh yeah, they did. They made him very much like more socially awkward, and like very like. So the one thing that I do like that I'm gonna just say right now, each of these Spider-Men, while still being nerdy in their own right, are nerdy for different reasons, which to me makes them all feel different enough to stand on their own.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I do like that. Like Andrew Garfield is like clearly still a late blue, like early, like still learning how to do the whole Spider-Man thing. But Tobey Maguire literally is just like, why are you still in costume? Do you not have something you wear over your costume? What is wrong with you? Like he's a veteran. He fucking gets it.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man seems to be like
Mm.
he seems to have everything figured out. Like it
Mm-hmm.
seems like things are going well for him, and he's like a seasoned veteran of being Spider-Man, and like he seems really cool and content with his life as Spider-Man, and like he just seems like the older, wiser Spider-Man. It's very
And,
respectful, I'd say.
and once again, is proven by the fact that he's the one who realizes the fact that this is a multiverse, while Andrew Garfield is completely unaware of like that being possible.
Really?
I think so, I'm pretty sure,
I
right?
thought right at the beginning he was
Like,
like, "Oh yeah, string theory, multiverses, it makes sense."
well, yeah, but he was like more surprised by it, while Tobey Maguire is just kind of like, yeah, I was trying to figure this out. Cool, glad it's real. And I
Yeah,
love how they're
okay.
both surprised by
Yeah,
yeah,
you're right. You're right. Okay, yeah.
and the fact that they're both surprised by the fact magic is just like, wait, what?
Yeah.
That really was good because I never really thought about it. Like their movies are all based on science, and their brains are just like, wait, what the fuck do you mean magic?
Right. Yeah. No, I agree.
So, I do like the payoff. So at this point they go find original Peter, and like tell him about everything that's happening, and like they give their not their sob stories, but they tell like they had a similar experience and they know what he's going through, which is true, obviously.
Yeah,
Um,
it's really good. Just right at the beginning,
yeah,
like Peter's friends go and meet him first, and they like give him a hug, and he's like, he's just wrecked and he's sad and he's like, we're just gonna push the button, just gonna send him back, screw it. And then the other two Spider-Men show up, and he right away is like, you guys have no idea what I'm going through. And they don't snap back at him or anything. They just take it slow, and then just one at a time, they sort of describe, like you said, the like traumatic things that have happened to them. And like, Andrew Garfield says he went through like a dark phase where he wasn't pulling his punches, and how he lost his girl. And Peter, lol, Tobey Maguire explains how he like hunted down the man that he thought was his uncle's killer, and he wanted him dead, and he got what he wanted, but it didn't fix it, didn't make him feel better, just like it was no good.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate him not mentioning Sandman there, because I don't remember if I said it in our other review, but I don't really appreciate the retcon they did in Spider-Man 3. Like, I thought that whole situation was like handled pretty much perfectly and didn't need any adjusting, and then in Spider-Man 3 they retcon it and like make it so that Flint is actually the guy who killed him, which like it works for the drama of that story, but I don't like it.
Yeah. It's like, I get why you're doing it, but also fuck you.
Right, and they didn't mention it for this movie, and they didn't need to. Like, he doesn't lie at any point. Like, everything he says is true. It's just, I appreciate how it's worded. It conveys the message really well. Because it'd be really
awkward for him to go, like... It'd be really awkward for him in that moment to be like, but it turns out it wasn't, and I just killed a random dude who was also bad.
Right.
Like, I know, sorry about that.
Right.
Like, it would not really add to the moment.
The guy who did kill my father is actually Sandman. Have you seen him? Like, yeah.
Just out of curiosity, as he like loads a Glock.
Yeah.
Sells a bit of that venom inside of him.
Oh yeah, a little bit of venom. That'll be relevant later.
Yeah. It's our payoff. It's our payoff.
Our
everyone.
payoff.
You get to experience the payoff of this if you're still listening after not seeing the movie.
Yeah, I want you to know I rewatched Venom 2 with my guild in Guild Wars. And
why?
Well, they had just watched Venom 1 and they wanted to see the second one, and I was like, guys, the second one's not as good as the first one. And they're like, you're probably just being dramatic because you know how I am. And I'm like, all right.
You're probably just being a film critic.
And then we got like 2 minutes in, and then we had to pause and talk about what had happened to the plot already. And like we just picked on it the whole time, and I was like, this movie's actually worse than I thought it was when I saw it in theaters. Never mind, I'm wrong.
When we came out of the theater and you and Ben both were like, yeah, it was pretty okay. I'm like, okay, so clearly James is just saying it's okay to make Ben feel better. Like, there's no way that he thought it was decent, right? There's no way.
I had fun with it. Upon a second viewing, it was much less fun. That could happen with this movie too. I haven't seen it a second time. I want to, but I never went. I should. But less.
Yeah, rewatch it, and then we'll add changes.
We'll do an update. Be like, actually, this movie sucks. Yeah. No, I doubt that would happen. But alas.
Yeah, go ahead. It's your turn. Your turn for the plot.
Let's see. Oh, I did kind of want to talk to you because this has been popping up a lot. I looked through Doctor Strange because I didn't like when Ned just made portals appear. Because I was like, surely this requires some training. Like, are we going to get some, like, Rey Skywalker stuff here where Ned can just do these things? I don't like it. And it is pretty consistent with Doctor Strange. They make reference that pretty much anyone can use magic. It's just you have to be, like, really convinced by it and, like, really believe in it. And, like, Doctor Strange couldn't for a long time, so what they do is they teleport him to, like, the Himalayas. And they're like, you'll freeze to death out here unless you make a portal to come home. And, like, that pushes him to the desperation to make the portal and come home. So, I can believe that Ned is fully invested in that moment when he tries to find Peter. Like, so that makes sense. With that said, anyone can make portals. That's really OP. I think it's not Spider-Man's problem, though. It's Doctor Strange's problem. And I think the way that you fix this is just sling rings are really, really rare. I think that's
the other thing too, and this could just be like me reading too much into it, but like Ned is one of the only other Asian characters in this series besides Shang-Chi or whatever. and it just so happens to be the only other Asian character we see in this series besides Shang-Chi is the Sorcerer Supreme, who is magical. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Maybe.
Like,
I
it feels really weird.
that could be there. I doubt that's intentional.
I really hope it's not. But part of my brain is like, huh.
And this is
that.
this is where the cynic in me really comes in, because I'm like, did they just do this for a plot, like to make the plot go somewhere, and they didn't look into it at all? Or did they rewatch Doctor Strange and say, oh yeah, we can get away with this? Or, you know, did they, like, how deep did they look into this before they decided they would go with it? And it's like, is it just lucky that it works out, that it pretty much makes sense? It's just unfortunate that Doctor Strange, like, introduces rules that are so easy for everyone to obey? Or is it that, you know, did they really, like, look into this and they were like, we can swing this, this makes sense, this will work based on what we have? Because, like I said, I would expect it to require lots of training. It doesn't, okay? Maybe it's...
You're right, and I also hope that means that in future films we'll be able to see Ned have more of a role in Spider-Man's future.
Yes, of course, that makes sense. Right, now they're like a superhero team. Woohoo. Yeah.
I'm more referring to something that happens
I
later,
know what you're referring
James.
to. I'm causing a red herring, as it's called. So let's see.
But yes, now all the spider people are together, and they all immediately are like, all right, we're going to make the cures. I'm like, oh, okay, that's quick.
Yeah, they, fight in Aunt May's honor. There's a nice little moment where they, like, all kind of say, great fire comes great responsibility at the same time, which is, like, it feels like low-hanging fruit to me, but, like, it doesn't not make sense or anything. So, and
to me, it felt like a moment of, like, no matter what multiverse they come from, that line will always happen.
Oh no,
it's supposed to be like the one thing that connects them all together, which I think is cute.
No, I agree. Like, it makes sense, and, like, it absolutely works for all three of these characters, but, like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like all of them saying it at the same time, like, feels pretty on the nose. I don't not like it or anything, but it's like, it's like, of course you did that, predictable, I guess.
Predictable, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But like I said, I don't not like it. It felt pretty obvious to me, and it's good. It closes out their conversation nicely, wraps up in a neat little bow. And yeah, like you said, they decide that they're gonna go develop the cures, and there's a little bit of dialogue where Toby's like, I've been thinking about what happened with Osborn for a long time. I think I might have an idea, and might be able to make this work. And I think Andrew says a similar thing about Lizard.
And they're all like, we've been thinking about this for a while. I'm like, oh, okay, that's convenient, but it's fine. I'll accept it.
Yeah, I think it's fine. It seems like something they'd think about, honestly.
Especially since the point of this film is to try to suggest that the spider people want to fix everybody, and it's kind of elaborated upon in other films.
Right.
Like, even in Spider-Man 1 through 3 and the Amazing Spider-Man, the main thing to take away from all of those is the fact that they always are trying to help the people who become evil.
Yeah.
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 So it's something that I agree with.
So they go to the high school chemistry lab?
I think so.
Yeah.
It's not really... they're already at the high school, so that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they just develop the cures that they need to solve these problems there. Seems unlikely to me that chemistry lab has the things you need.
Well, they already had some of the pieces, but I also agree. I feel
even if it was just the goblin serum, like, really.
Well, they also had the thing for Electro.
No, I know. What I'm saying is, like, even if I
Oh,
Even if
okay.
I allow them that all of those things are made, work perfectly, and they have them already, even if the only thing they needed to make was the anti-goblin serum, that still seems like too much to me. That like they would just
True.
have that stuff on hand, considering it was like a formula that they made up specifically in Osborne Labs for that. Like it's just weird that they could come up with that stuff in a high school chemistry lab.
True, true.
Hmm.
It's definitely like one of those things that just once again it's a thing that's there to move the plot along,
Right. And it's like you can make it a lot more believable if they went to like a real chemistry lab or something. Like
or like to Stark Industries or something.
yeah,
They like snuck in.
yeah, those things would like make it more believable. But we're on a crunch for time, so it's alright. And there's like a
Hmm.
nice little joke where Ned shows up at one point and he's like, "Hey Peter," and they're all are like, "Yeah," and then he's like,
Yeah, ha ha ha
Peter
ha
Parker," and they're all like, "That doesn't help, dude."
ha 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 ha
Haha.
ha ha.
Let's.
Like the.
So, is there anything
I
else
mean,
in that scene
we
we
have a
need?
bunch of cute. No, I was just gonna say there's a bunch of just cute scenes happening at this point before the final thing happens. Where like all the Spider-Men are kind of interacting. They make a joke about the fact that both Tobey Maguire's webs just come out of him,
Yeah.
and they're all like, dude, that's fucking gross. What the fuck?
They're like, "Does it come out of anywhere else?" And he's like, "No,
Yeah,
just my wrists."
just
He's like, "You guys had to
it's
have to make your own web and then like get your own launchers for it? That's weird." I do kind of appreciate that because I had grown up
yeah.
on the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. I didn't ever read comics or anything. So then in Amazing
Mm.
Spider-Man, when he had to like make his own website, I was like, "Wait, really? Okay."
Is that normal? What the fuck?
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, is that how it always?" I don't know if I like that as much, but alas, it's fine.
I also like so like here so we can actually talk about it here because we want to talk about like fan service versus like payoff.
Sure.
This, at one point you talked about that.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a good scene that's like it like walks the line in my opinion.
Okay, which one?
The whole like preparing for the fight where they're all interacting with each other. Like there are moments of like genuine like sweet connection between the characters, especially Toby and Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they have that moment where they're fixing his back, and talking to each other about stuff, or them comparing like what they've done before. Where I think Andrew Garfield makes a reference to the fact that he fought a guy in a rhino suit.
Yeah,
But the joke there being that we never saw that fight,
right. And
which is super cute.
it works extra well when they're talking about like aliens, like that Tom Holland went to
Mhm.
space and like he fought Venom, and then he's just like, I fought a dude in a rhino suit.
Yeah.
It's like, and then I do really
Ver-
appreciate that scene where Andrew Garfield's like kind of talking himself down. And Toby's like, "Hey, what's all that negative self-talk? Come on, dude. You're
Yeah.
amazing."
You're amazing.
And it's
yeah.
another one of those, like I said, respecting the characters, but not necessarily the movies they're in, because everyone knows that Andrew Garfield,
Mm.
like I said, was never the bad part of those movies. But like, I
And
see how he
like
could come away
I'm
with
not
that thought after seeing like the critical reviews of those movies, and it's just like, I appreciate that in a meta sense.
and that's one of those things where like it even took me a second once they started saying like the thing. I'm like, what's happened? Oh, incredible. Got it.
Yep.
That's when it all clicked with me. I'm like, that makes a lot more
I
sense.
see what's
And
happening
damn, do
here.
I feel bad. Yeah. But here's the question: would anyone? So I could be incorrect. Please forgive me here, Patrick. Pat didn't get anything from those scenes because he just didn't get anything from them. So is that a scene that is good because we like those characters, or is it good because it's a good payoff?
I would like to say it's a good payoff because, so when I think of the key jangling, I usually think of like Like Luke
Give me a
Skywalker.
Star Wars reference. Yeah, give me a Star Wars. I somehow knew it.
Luke Skywalker at the end of Mandalorian season 2. So, did
Mm-hmm.
you see that episode?
Nope.
Okay, essentially,
I've been Star Wars free since the sequels. I'm gonna be honest with you, man.
sounds kind of nice. Essentially, um, our heroes like make it to like the bridge of the big old star destroyer, and there's all these like super scary edgelord robots coming at them, and they're like about to break through the door where all of our heroes are and kill them all. And Luke Skywalker shows up in his X-wing, and it's played up real good because like an X-wing flies by, and they're like, "Who's that?" And then like they look on the security cameras, and there's a cloaked figure with a lightsaber slicing through the droids, and it's like, oh my goodness. And then he like fights through the last hallway and comes to the door with all of our heroes, and he takes off his hood, and it reveals that it's Luke Skywalker, and everyone's like, oh my goodness. So you can kind of see the parallel, yeah?
Yes.
So the reason I don't think that that has substance where this does is in that episode, Luke Skywalker essentially just shows up for like almost no reason except just like sensing Baby Yoda's there, and then cuts down a bunch of droids, takes Baby Yoda, says "May the Force be with you," and goes home. And like I feel like if Luke Skywalker was actually there, he'd be like, who are you guys? What's going on here? Is the Empire back? Do I need to be concerned with this? Like, very serious questions about what's going on and like how the world that he has helped like bring peace to could be in danger. But instead he just shows up, flashes his lightsaber around, kills some edgelord spooky giant robots, and then leaves. So it's like, he's just there for fan service. Whereas in this, the characters are brought in, they're portrayed with, largely their old characteristics, but with a few new ones that we could easily get out of, inferring what happens to them after the end of their movies. And, like, that's how they operate in the world. And then, like, the conversations they have with each other, like, it's all reflective of what has come before. Everything that they've done kind
of the Spider-Man, right?
Yeah. Everything that they've done kind of culminates in this. And it's not, like I said, the Spider-Man. It doesn't work for all of them, like Lizard sounds cool, but he doesn't really do much in this besides, look,
be there,
yeah,
and be a reference.
Be there and like kind of give information for our characters to work off of. He seems more like a reference. He seems more like a key jangle, but he's not really the focus either, They barely had time with him.
Yeah.
Whereas these Spider-Men, they got the time put in. They got to have that scene, or I say that scene, those scenes with our new Spider-Man, where they share like their ideas, and they got to work together in that way.
I get what you mean. Basically, what you're saying is like a key jangle is something that doesn't add anything or actively ruins something from the past, while a payoff is something that more or less like is something that has happened in the past, but they add to it to make it worth being in the scene.
I wouldn't really put key jangle and payoff like separately, because it is a payoff when Luke Skywalker shows up in that episode of The Mandalorian, but
yeah,
it's like it's really a thing of execution. It's just like, you're gonna bring this character back. The cynical brain is like, why are you doing it? Is it because you think it'll help the story? Is it just because you want to advertise that, these people are going to be here and you want to get butts and seats, and that's the best way to do it? But like from a more storytelling perspective, it does kind of come down to, are they here to be themselves, or are they here like just so you can recognize them? And it's
so you can look at product and clap, yeah.
Right. And it can be difficult to judge. Because I went kind of back and forth on it. When I came home from the theater, I was like, oh man, have I just been got? Like, did they just play me like a fiddle? Like, cause I fell for this. And then, like, the more I think about it, I'm like, no, this is, like, seems to work. Maybe I'm just coping. But, like, these characters, they're having conversations that are relevant to them, and they're, like, acting within their character. And there is, like, the two payoffs, one for Andrew and one for Toby, that are coming up that are, like, really effective, and they're acting just like
Correct.
helps it along. Whereas the Luke Skywalker I talked about, it wasn't really him. It was like a deep fake of him, so it like doesn't look quite right
Yeah.
either. And it's like, it's
And that's another thing too of like, are you respecting the fact that this person, are you respecting this person, or are you just using it to get people to clap? You know?
right. And like when Toby has his final payoff in this movie, like we'll talk about it, but like he doesn't say a word and he doesn't need to. Like his face just says it all.
Because we all know.
Yeah.
And we all know what it is.
We all know exactly what's going on. Like, it's so indicative of his character. He knows exactly what's happening right now. He has the experience, and he knows that what he's
literally
doing.
been through it.
Yeah, and he knows just by doing the thing he's about to do. Like, he doesn't need to like sit Tom down or like have a talk with him. Like, he knows that just stopping him right now for a minute will get it done. And it's like, yeah, it's just so much better. Like,
I can literally, like, even when you're talking about it, I can hear like the smile on your face for it.
yeah, it's I love it.
Yeah.
Love it so much.
So speaking of which, let's make like MJ and dive into it.
Oh, Jesus
That's a really bad
Christ.
joke.
All right. So
Yeah, take it. You get to take it.
well, so here's something kind of funny I want to talk about. So essentially what happens is they I think Ned hacks into J. Jonah Jameson's show and to do
No, incorrect.
No.
No, Peter just calls him.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He just calls him. I was picturing a visual in my head, but anyway. So
the guy behind the chair got you confused.
Right. Yeah, guy behind the chair. So he that's a fun joke too, but we'll skip it. We're running out of time.
Yeah.
So, Peter calls in to the J. Jonah show and he's like, I'm looking to, still cure these guys and you guys should come get me. I'm at the Statue of Liberty. So, and like that's where we're setting up for a big final fight, right? And I was thinking about it a little bit. Because at first I was like, why would he go there? Like, they're going to just destroy another monument. That's just more fuel for J. Jonah Jameson. And then I was like, well, it's currently under construction. They're putting a Captain America's shield in Lady Liberty's hand. I think they would just build a second monument in real life. But for the sake of the movie, we'll get loudest for them. And since it's being constructed on, there's a whole bunch of scaffolding all around it. And that seems perfect for Spider-Man to work with, right? Tight corners, lots of things to web to. Like, plenty of space while leaving plenty of things to attach webs to like, maximize your maneuverability. It seems like a good place for them to have a battle. However...
and here's the big part.
Lady Liberty is made out of copper. Copper is a conductor of electricity.
Oh yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I don't think they did either.
Well, the one thing that I thought about when this was happening was like, why is the Captain America's shield already like, even better yet, why is Lady Liberty brown already? Like, did they just remake the Statue of Liberty?
I de-rustified it, I guess.
Yeah.
Don't know.
It's weird, right?
Yep.
Why is it brown? It's green in real life.
Literally.
And
electric.
And the argument of this is the argument that this is the future, like, or that this is like a future timeline of a current timeline, or this is a future timeline of like another timeline. I'm like, no, there's Coca-Cola ads in this movie. Like, this is our timeline in the future. It's not fucking.
Well, Coca-Cola exists in our future, I assume.
I'm just saying, people were saying that this is a alternate universe.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, Coca-Cola
like, no,
probably exists in other universes.
They are, but they're always named other things. I keep fucking doing this. I'm sorry I keep doing this, but I'm gonna say it again. In Spider-Verse, they had something similar to Coca-Cola, but it was called something different.
Alright.
Yeah, it's like Cola-Cola or some shit.
I'll allow it. Cola-Cola.
I'm just saying that people were saying that it's a different universe Spider-Man. I'm like, no, it's ours from the future. It's literally what it is.
Yeah, I don't think we have any reason to believe that, unless there's something I missed.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I don't think so. But yeah, I didn't even think about the fucking conducting, that being a conductor. Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
So that's a thing. But anyway, that aside, um, battle commences. I don't think we need to spend too much time on this battle. It starts off with our Spider-Man being really disorganized, and then they have like a little meeting in the middle, and there's a cute little line where Tom Holland Spider-Man is like, I know how to, because they're like, we don't know how to work as a team. We've always been solo, and we'll just forget about the final fight in Spider-Man 3. But Tom Holland's like, I know how to fight in a team. I was on the Avengers, and they're like, oh, that's so cool. What's that?
I was like, oh, that's great. What is that?
Yeah. They're like, were you in a band? And he's like, no, it's a group of superheroes. And they're like, there's others? And they just move past it. It's great. But they refer themselves as like Peter 1, Peter 2. Andrew Garfield's just like, guess I'm Peter 3, and they do a little web slinging around. There's a sweet little moment where like one of them webs the other two and like pulls them forward, and they all do their little mid-air stances. Because if you look at like the posters for these, maybe not the posters, but like clips from these movies, they all have like little signature movements as they move through the air, and they all kind of do them for a second, and then they all do their landing. It's definitely that like Avengers scene where the camera just revolves around the team of all of them moving up, like just that little scene for this movie, and it's nice to see. But
yeah,
fight commences. They are essentially focusing down one person at a time, while trying to keep the others distracted as they inject them all with their respective cures. And at some point, Octavius shows up to help with curing Electro.
Which, by the way, so to me that's hilarious because they shot it like that he was still bad, even though the last time we saw him he was fine. So my brain at that moment is just like, why are they acting like he's gonna hurt them? Like, I know it's Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire who don't understand what's happening because they were never told that. No, they had to be told because they didn't make cures for him.
I guess they may have not known he was there, but
no, that doesn't make sense either because they explained that, like, I'm sure they explained. It just feels weird why they wouldn't. Yeah.
They say they're like aware of the other Spider-Man because they like saw it on news or something. Yeah, I get.
So, but it just feels like a weird thing to have for the scene of being like, oh my god, he's evil. And we're like, no, he's not. He literally was just. He was the first one to get cured. What the fuck? What do you mean he's evil?
I don't really remember that.
Why are you shooting it like he's evil?
I don't really remember that. I'll take your word for it. Yeah, I don't really have anything to contribute. I don't remember that part well enough, if I'm honest.
It's just the music suggests that he's evil, and then he like does the thing to stop Electro, and then they're like, oh, he's cured.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. Fucking no.
Seems like something they could have talked about beforehand. Like, what villains are we dealing with? Oh, this guy. There was a dude with like octopus arms, but we cured him, so he shouldn't be a problem. I don't know. It's weird. You're right. Yeah, that's odd.
It's a weird. Yeah.
But
yeah, the fight itself convinces. The one problem they're having though currently is the fact that he knows how to open portals, but he does not know how to close the portals.
Oh yeah.
Ned does. I mean.
Yeah, Ned. Yeah. Also, at some point, we free Doctor Strange. Accidentally.
Oh, Ned opened a portal. Ned opened a portal and got Doctor Strange out.
Yeah, to the mirror dimension. Doctor Strange like walks out, and he's all grump.
I also don't remember how he got there either. He made a mention he was in the Himalayas, and that's about all I remember him saying. I think he was trying to get back through the main door of I think it was supposed to be like a call back to the fact that their house had been taken over by snow.
Oh yeah, because like they've got the doors that open to other areas of the world, so maybe that was just like the closest way to get back.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
But But yeah, they tell him, hey, look, we know you're mad, we know you're pissed off, but look, he's helping them, he's carrying them.
Yeah, it's working.
Uh,
Essentially.
yeah, and Strange just kind of chills, I think, if I recall. I don't remember what he's doing during all this.
So
I think he comes near the end of the fight, right?
something happens because they can't close the portal. So I think it's Lizard, like essentially like goes through the portal and then forces Ned and MJ um to like the Statue of Liberty side of the portal. And Strange shows up there at some point as well. But Lizard gets cured along with the others, and then Osborn arrives. And when he arrives, he like launches a grenade or something that gets stuck in the box with the spell.
No, he grabs the box and then puts a grenade inside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And that
and
that's what damages it and starts causing the big old rifts in the sky, in the fabric of time and space, I suppose. So Doctor Strange is now like focused on like, because there's like these big old rifts torn open in space, so Doctor Strange is focused on like trying to keep those contained. Meanwhile, as fight's going on, this is when MJ gets knocked off the scaffolding, and she's like falling. So Tom Holland jumps after her, and right when he's about to catch her, Doc flies in and like knocks him out of the way, and Peter's like essentially stuck to his glider. And this is the moment when Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man.
You mean Green Goblin? Green Goblin.
Yeah.
You said Doc.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, Green Goblin flies in and hits him.
Say no.
And then yeah, he's stuck to the glider. And then this is the point when Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, jumps off and catches MJ and safely, gets her to the ground. And that's like the sweet little moment where he's like, "You okay?" And she's like, "Yeah." And the camera just like sits on his face for a little bit as he like as like a tear comes to his eye. And this is a real nice moment considering the end of TASM 2. And
he finally got his redemption.
Yeah, finally got to save. It's interesting, he like gets the opportunity to save someone else's love interest, but that someone else is also him, like
he gets to basically save another MJ, which makes him feel like he's making up for his past sins.
Yeah, and the camera sits on his face while he like, it like occurs to him what he's just done, and like he's like, tear comes to his eye. He's really happy with this, and this is a payoff that I was like kind of expecting, because like I knew about this because in the trailer there's the scene where she gets like knocked off the scaffolding and she's falling, and I was like, oh, it'd be really cool if they let Andrew Garfield, Spider-Man, save her as like redemption.
It'd be really cool if they let Andrew Garfield do anything.
Right. And like, so I was expecting it to happen, and it was still just like so good.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. And I think so. That was your payoff. My payoff, however, was at the end of the fight with Tobey Maguire.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I love this one too.
Yeah. So, I like, as the fight reaches a climactic end and like the sun starts coming up, instead of it just being or the other two are busy doing something, I can't remember what, but our Peter Parker is able to finally like fight the Green Goblin hand to hand. Like he's finally able to punish the person who hurt Aunt May. And what's funny to me in this situation, this is the exact story that Tobey Maguire told Tom Holland at this point, that he tried to hunt down his killer and it didn't change how he felt. But like, our Peter just doesn't care at this point. He's like already blind with rage. The fact that he was willing to not only hurt MJ but actually kill his mom. And like, to be fair, this is the first like time that a villain has gotten away with hurting someone close to Peter in this trilogy. Like, the only other time would have been, if you really think about it, this is the first time they actually did attack someone close to him. Last time it was him being connected to Mysterio as a father figure, so that doesn't really count And in the first movie, I mean, he wasn't going to put his own daughter at risk.
Right. I mean, I guess she's
He had no
emotionally
need to.
hurt, but like, yeah,
Yeah.
to a big degree, honestly. But
This
not
is the
like
first time
life in
that.
danger. And well, I guess
Yeah.
like his friends' lives were kind of in danger in Far From Home, but like you said, no one got hurt, at least not seriously. So
Hmm. Yeah. They weren't the cause. They weren't like the thing that got him mad. This
right.
is the first time where someone close to him has been hurt, and he is like, he's literally. So it's a beautiful parallel between the Tobey Maguire and our current Spider-Man.
Yeah. And even though he's warned against
And
this, it's like, still pretty relatable. I
and the moment that it's about to happen is the moment that Toby steps in to stop him, and he gives him that look like, I told you, I went through this. It doesn't help.
Yeah, essentially Tom Holland like kind of beats Goblin to the point where he's on the ground,
Oh,
and then he goes and
yeah,
grabs the glider with the blade still out, and he's like, yeah, carrying it over with a very lethal intent, needless to say. And yeah, before he gets the strike in, Tobey Maguire steps in and like catches it, and he just like holds it there while just like staring right at him, and yeah, after
it's a
he fights him for a
it's a
second,
powerful
but
moment.
yeah, after a minute there, he like throws the glider down.
And he also falls down too because he knows it's too late.
Mm.
He knows what should be done.
Yep, and
It's a very good scene.
this is a very good payoff.
Hmm.
And at that point, Goblin goes ahead, pulls out a hidden knife, I guess, and gives our Tobey Maguire a little stabby stab in the back of the leg. I
Hmm.
think. Yep. And then
Yeah, it's like in his back or back of leg or something, but
yeah,
it's okay. He's the Spider-Man.
yeah,
He's not gonna die from
he's all right.
that.
Um,
It's less of like he's trying to kill with intent and more showing that you'll never change me.
yeah, and then they do.
Yeah.
Yep.
They do a sick maneuver and they throw Tom Holland the cure and he cures him.
Yep. And all is well. And then let's see. And is there at one point Toby looks up at all the rifts in the space, and he's like, "Is that really happening, or am I dying?" And I appreciate that line. And they're like, "No, it's actually happening." And is there anything else we need to say about the fight before we move along to the decision making?
I I don't really think so. No, I think that wraps up the fight.
Yeah.
Once again, sorry, Lizard, you kind of get cucked.
Yeah, he's like ferocious in this fight, but he gets the cure, and we talked about it before, but like I said, Sandman gets the cure, and like I feel really good about this. The little scene where he transitions into a person, he's like looking at his hand while it's like the sand is disintegrating. That's from Spider-Man 3. I'm sure of it. I recognize it. And
Yeah, it's
yeah.
definitely something. I will give it that.
So
It just feels like he was an afterthought. I'm sorry.
it's weird, right? Because like,
It feels like the Rhino would have been a better pick, honestly.
well, the Rhino didn't know who Peter Parker was, but that didn't stop us for Electro. So inconsistencies left and right, friends.
Yeah.
It's weird
Yeah.
because it seems like they put effort into putting those characters in, but didn't really like take the time to do much with them. I have to assume that they had good plans for them, and then they're like, we have a runtime we have to hit. We need to cut stuff out.
Yeah.
But
And like I said, I feel like if they put this in if they left this in the writing room for a little longer, it could have been fleshed out.
yeah, I think just having a bit more time would really do it for it.
But I think we can move on to like the finale of this film.
Yeah. So Doctor Strange explains the new situation, and the Rifts are letting anyone in who knows that is it does he say, like, is it just anyone who knows Peter Parker as Spider-Man, or just anybody related to Spider-Man in any way?
I think it's everyone related to Spider-Man, which I think that's why we don't see the other, like Gwen and Stacy and all that.
I guess.
Because, like he said, only if he oh, that's right, he makes a slight mention saying, like, only if a few of them slip through the cracks.
Oh, okay. And we see
so that's why
they're it's almost like constellations of the people who are getting in, and you can recognize some of the characters. Like Rhino is one of them. There's another who's got like a spear and a shield. They've got a name. They're from the comics, but I can't remember it right now. But essentially the decision comes down to now Peter has to decide. He can fix this by casting a spell, but that spell is everyone will forget who Peter Parker is, essentially.
I think that's like the Hunter. It's like a character whose whole thing is that he like wants to hunt down the most dangerous species, being Spider-Man. I'm not kidding. That's a literal character in the fucking Spider-Man lore. It's a guy whose whole thing, he's just a normal dude who just wants to hunt Spider-Man.
Kraven the Hunter?
Yeah, that's it.
Alright.
It's a dumb character.
I mean,
it's very dumb.
Hunting down the most dangerous predators sounds like a predator to me. I like it.
He's just some dude. He's just some fucking dude. I'm sorry.
I'm looking at this character though. He's got quite the look.
Yeah.
Well,
interesting to say the least. Anyway, sorry.
Indeed. Anyway, so this scene is another one that's a bit weird, because I feel like Doctor Strange here needs to be like, so you're doing this because otherwise the universe gets destroyed. But instead he's like, are you sure you want to do this, Peter? It's just, again, I don't think it lines up with Doctor Strange's character. But
yeah,
I think you can write this better. Not in a way that Doctor Strange demands it, but that like Doctor Strange is like, this is the only way, and Peter like also arrives at the same conclusion at the same time. It seems more respectful to both characters that way, I think. But
yeah, 100%.
Alas, he goes to MJ and Ned, and he's like, you're gonna forget all about me. And they're like, like in denial of that, and they're like, there's no way, right? And then like when it finally dawns on them that this is what's happening, they're like, come find us. We'll figure it out. We'll make it work. We'll get it all back.
Yeah, it's a sweet moment.
Yeah, it very much reads like how this would play out in real life. So, Doctor Strange goes ahead and does it. Everyone is returned to their universes, as far as we know. And the rifts are all closed up.
Now, here's my question.
Okay.
So, that fucks everything up, right? The fact that they've all been saved now, does that have an effect on those previous stories now, to where now... Because these are all them from their different time. Now, obviously, I haven't seen Loki, so I don't know how this fucking affects, like, the whole parallel universe shit. But, like, does this affect that timeline of the films we saw?
I don't think so.
Because now they're cured before they died.
Oh, you mean like the villains' universes?
Yeah. And then as an extent to that, it would also affect the Spider people, because then like they're cured, and that means that their lives changed. Right?
Well, I guess it would affect them in the sense that they don't remember who Spider-Man is, but they are cured, so they're not evil anymore or like doing bad things.
Correct. So then my point I'm trying to get across then is, does that change the universes that or does that change Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire? This becomes like a grandfather's paradox. Like, if those people were not evil, would Spider-Man still exist? Or if like those people weren't evil, would they have a reason to go to that timeline in the first place?
I don't think it changes anything about the past. I think people are just meant to forget.
Okay.
But
it just feels like it feels weird, right? Like that could be interpreted like that.
I didn't interpret it like that, but I see what you're saying. and I guess I don't have anything to cite against it besides just what the characters say.
Right.
Yeah.
So that just becomes then a situation of what happens from next. Like,
Right. Well,
do they go back to does it matter what he did?
we don't see them. I guess I would like to interpret yes. Those characters
Yeah.
don't remember what happened, but
Unless we're going by the theory of that people come up with, that he returns, that Green Goblin returns to the moment he dies.
right, and that's why I don't like that theory, because then he
Yeah.
dies for no reason, essentially. Well,
Then that
not
makes his
really
death
no reason,
worthless.
but like it
Yeah.
it does make that redemption feel worthless.
Yeah.
Give me a quick 30 seconds. My headset's dying. Be right back.
Oh, okay. I will entertain the masses right now. Hello, everyone. I'm glad you're here. I want to let you all know that I usually say I have products in the works, and I'm just going to be upfront honest. I got stuff like that's been on boil for like 3 years now, and I feel motivated to do it, but I also don't have any time to do it. So it's a very much like it's going to happen when it happens. I know I made that update video a couple months ago, but as I've said before, things have kind of gotten out of hand. I've been editing stuff for Amdog's stream, and I'm hoping to edit more people's streams if I can, to learn how to edit better and make better content overall. So yeah, I just want to let everyone know that while we have a few moments here. I might even put this in the beginning just to soften the blow of this fucking nearly, oh god, 3 hour and 15-minute review of a 2.5 hour movie.
And we're not done.
We're almost
We're
done.
very close. So,
Yeah.
I guess,
I know one thing we're talking about for like 10 minutes, but we'll wait for that.
yeah. So, let's see. The next, so, are we good on that conversation? I guess, yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is flaky what happens to the
Yeah.
villains, and there is more flakiness to this that we can talk about. So, I think it cuts to a scene where like Jay Jonah's, you know, like the show is playing, and he's like talking about Spider-Man and like what happened, and he's like, however, that coward remains masked, and we do not know who they are. And it's like, okay, so it worked.
And honestly, like that's exactly how they would behave. Like I rolled my eyes, going like, yeah, that sounds about right. You either have to unmask yourself for them to be happy, and once you do that, then they're gonna just fucking attack you for being you.
Yeah. What is
That felt very real.
right? Well, I think Mysterio stayed masked, and it would seem that Jay Jonah definitely liked Mysterio. I say stayed masked, except for at the end there, of course, in the video. Now that I say that, I'm not sure if I really believe that's true or not. I'll have to rewatch. But anyway.
How do you mean? What do you mean?
Oh, just
no, it's not
I don't know if Mysterio shows his face or not. Besides at the very end of times, but I guess so. I guess, you know, elephant in the room. This spell has to do a lot of work for everyone to forget. You know that who Peter Parker is. That's one thing. For everyone to forget, for like everything, every piece of physical evidence to get removed that incarcerates him, that's something else. Like, can you just watch last week's episode of J. Jonah Jameson and relearn it? You know,
I think what happened, and this might, I think what happened is that time did get reset in a sense. Everyone forgot the past few days that has happened, or has forgotten to the point of where that didn't happen. So it was before the recording of that episode.
So they just forgot everything
If
that
that makes
has
sense.
happened in the past couple days, with the
Yeah.
that doesn't everything.
Oh, that's true because they're forgetting who Peter Parker is.
Well,
Yeah,
my point is, if it's
something doesn't add up there
everything, then it
yeah.
doesn't work for Ned and MJ, because they've known him for years.
Yeah.
And they probably didn't just forget years of, life.
Yeah. It feels like something is missing there in that explanation. Like, it's not... it can't be time, because he doesn't have the time stone anymore, so it can't be him reversing time to before that point happened.
Right.
So if he's just basically erasing everyone, but they've, which I hate how they fucking did this, but they said that they would explain it in this Doctor Strange film, which I fucking
I hate that.
That I have to learn about what happened in this film by being forced to watch a film I don't care about.
One that hasn't come out yet.
And that's the main problem I have here is I've watched this film hoping I could watch it separately from the rest of the MCU, but
oh well.
All I've seen
that
now
seems silly.
is that I'm going to have to continue watching them if I want to get everything. And to be fair, I really don't. Like, I really don't care.
I still haven't watched Shang-Chi. And
I just watched it today and got halfway through and turned it off.
Eternals.
It's decent.
Eternals was a drag.
Eternals blamed Hiroshima on a gay black man.
Oh my god.
Sorry, my friend made it clear for me. They didn't blame him. He blamed himself, which is apparently a difference.
They are 1,000-year-old creatures. No, wait, they're robots, and they're remembering their past usages. Why are they able to do that when their creators are like literal gods? It's anyways
about Eternals another time.
We can talk about that disaster later.
Yeah.
So should
the point I'm making is that we don't really have it. We don't have like a concrete answer of how everything changed.
So
all we know is that nobody knows who Peter Parker is.
I want to skip ahead and then we'll come back. So Peter visits Aunt May's grave, and Happy is there, and
yeah.
And this is honestly a pretty touching scene. However, what we need to talk about. Well, I guess we'll just hit on it. He kind of asks, he's like, she was so good. I wonder, like, when she dies, does all the goodness that, like, she brought into the world go away? And Peter's like, no. No. And that seems to, like, reassure him. And it's, like, it's a pretty sweet moment. However, what I don't like about this is Happy's like, how'd you know her? And he's like, I knew her through Spider-Man. And Happy says, yeah, me too. And that becomes really awkward. Because what that means is that he knows that Tony knew Spider-Man. And that's how he knows Spider-Man. But he doesn't remember how he doesn't know who Spider-Man is. And that's, like, not a concern to him. Because like the Avengers have forgotten who Spider-Man is, but that should be a concern for them. Like, oh,
right,
this guy was a hero and he was helping us, but we have no idea who he is.
Yeah, like it's a weird, like, I guess so. I guess in this sense, because she died, she was not affected by the spell, so she knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man.
Right.
So because she knew, she still helped Peter, or still helped Spider-Man with, like I said, in Far From Home, he had like a bunch of like press interviews and stuff, and she helped him with those.
Right. But like Happy was there, so it seems weird that he could reconcile in his mind that he showed up to those with Spider-Man and just never knew who he was, especially when he was kind of Iron Man's protege for a little while.
Yeah, the more we dig into the problem of this twist, the more like the film is ruined because of the fact that it's not time, it's dealing with the mind.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of minds you're fucking with, and that's a lot of shit you're changing. And once again, they've made it very clear it's going to be shown, or it's going to be like hinted at how that happened in fucking the other. I'm going to take a guess and say it's probably something to do with the fact that it's like an alternate timeline situation.
I guess.
Where something changed, but it's still not a happy answer.
Well,
it
feels
very messy for what they're trying to do.
It's still not like good. It still doesn't hold up.
No.
And again, this also cancels out. Yeah, this also affects everything we talked about. Like, this also has to take out any physical evidence. Recordings of him, pictures of him, like school records, like all these things have to go away also for this to work. And the more that we give the film, yeah, it must have done that because that's the only way this makes sense. The more powerful this spell becomes, and the more I question why Doctor Strange doesn't use it to defeat evil. Yeah, so it's
which
like
goes back to
every time,
your original question.
right? And every time you fail, like every time we give in one direction, like it pushes the other one further into being bad. So, oh well. But
It's a weird one.
yeah,
I will say this though, because I feel like I do need to bring this up, and as our resident Star Wars fan, I should probably bring up the Star Wars fact in this one.
of course.
I like the use of Palpatine in this film.
Yeah, me too.
When he moves it, yeah, that's sweet. That's a genuine sweet moment.
I
When I saw that on Twitter, my brain was like, I haven't seen the film yet. I'm like, what the fuck do they mean Palpatine? What?
Well,
but once I saw the scene that they're talking about, I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. No, that's fair.
Well, it's funny because all this stuff is owned by Disney. So we could have Anakin Skywalker versus Sandman. That could happen.
It would be the dream.
It would be the dream. Disney's not going to give it to us because they don't really love us, but...
Because they're cowards.
Yeah.
What would happen if Sandman was on Tatooine, though? Like,
he'd be unstoppable.
Would he become?
Maybe that's the
would
mission.
Would he become the?
Like Anakin has
would
to
he
stop
become
him
the planet?
before he gets there.
Fucking door, awesome.
Anyway,
but anyways,
now for the good payoff.
Yeah.
So, we get the sense that's like like at least a week later, right? And Peter's walking to the coffee shop that MJ works at, and he's got like a little note card in his hand, and he's walking over, and he's like rehearsing sort of his lines, and I'm sure he's thought about this a lot, and he's like come up with the way that he thinks would be the best to explain everything and get that information out. So he goes in, and it's awkward as you would expect. And I think all he manages to say is, "Hi, my name's Peter Parker, and I'd like a coffee." And at some point during this all, like Ned walks in and goes and sits down and gets on his laptop. And like Peter's just like overwhelmed. He's like just trying to deal with everything. And MJ brings in the coffee. And at some point here, she like pulls back her hair a little bit to reveal a band-aid. Like kind of above her eye that Peter pointed out earlier in the final battle. He was like, "Oh my god, are you okay? It's bleeding right here." So like he sees it and he asks about it, and she's like, "Oh, it doesn't hurt anymore." And then she's like, "Is there anything else?" And he's like, "No, there's nothing else. See you around."
The way I interpreted this scene, at least in my opinion, is the fact that, yeah, he could have told them everything that had happened and, told them that he was Spider-Man. But that would just lead back to the same situation that he started in. They were only affected and hurt because of the fact that they knew who he was.
Yeah.
And the whole idea of this spell was to make everyone forget that fact.
Mm-hmm.
So the moment that he tells them, once again, what's stopping what happened before happen again?
Yep. That
so
you have nailed it. That is the interpretation, I think.
It's a weird self-sacrifice moment, but in a way that that doesn't kill the character, And I do like. The problem is I like that scene. I really like that scene. I hate how the spell works.
Oh, it is. Yeah, the spells are super contrived. Like.
Okay, I'm going back to this. I think I figured it out.
All right, let's hear it.
If Mysterio didn't know who Spider-Man was, then he doesn't have to cast a spell on everyone. So at least then, not everyone knows who Spider-Man is. Right?
Well, they'd have to go back in time for that.
Because yeah, fuck! Well, you can just do fuck, you're right. It doesn't make fucking sense.
No. But,
God damn it.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so yeah, I think the way it ends is very nice and very sweet. But I think like I don't know. The payoff is worth it, but it's not worth. I'm not going to sit through another movie to learn how it works.
Well, that I don't think it can. Like,
No.
I think it's non-functional, which sucks. But
Yeah.
with
Agreed.
that said, that payoff's real good.
Yeah, and I think if we're gonna finish this thing off before we get into rate, we need to talk about one other thing that definitely was worth the wait.
Oh yeah, so
the biggest payoff. No. I'm taking.
Why don't you take this one?
Why
don't you tell us this?
I'm fucking livid about this.
Why don't you tell us
right?
the setup for this and then explain the payoff?
Okay, so as we've established, everybody who knows Peter Parker is in. Some people have slipped through. For those of you who did not see Venom 2, Let There Be a Waste of My Goddamn Time, that film ends, at least with the post-credit scenes, of Tom Hardy and Venom appearing somewhere different, with Venom suggesting that he knows about other timelines and wants to show Tom Hardy this situation. So I'm like, oh, that's a cool setup. I wonder where this goes. They go to our timeline and show Peter Parker on TV, and he says him because it's Spider-Man. So this is to apply that. So this is what I got from this scene, that Venom is the same Venom from Spider-Man 3. Do you get that, James? Are you there?
Yeah, no.
That's the only way it makes sense.
So, wait. I think you lost me. Run me through it one more time.
Okay, so Venom from the Venom movie.
Uh-huh.
That's the same symbiote from Spider-Man 3.
Okay. And the reason for this is...
That's what... The only evidence I have to prove that is the fact that he makes mention of knowing Spider-Man, and that he knows a previous Spider-Man, which is Peter Parker. And in his mind, that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, so he got there because he knows Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Well, that Venom died, though.
How did that Venom die?
The one from Spider-Man 3?
Yeah.
He got burnt up.
But James, no one's ever really gone.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm gonna look this up. I don't think they...
I almost said that, Eddie
Yeah.
Brock. That Tom Hardy died. Wait, no, it is that Eddie Brock. I almost said that Tom Hardy died. That Eddie Brock died, though. So, like... but
that Eddie Brock died,
yeah.
but not the Venom symbiote.
No, it did. It got all burnt up. With the pumpkin bomb. Again, showing the scaling power of pumpkin bombs in these franchises.
It didn't.
Yeah, it did.
It's still moving. It's still moving around by the time it's dead.
It's burning up.
It's still squirming around.
It's dead.
But that's the only way it makes sense. It's the only way it makes sense of how he knows who Peter Parker is.
What about... What part...
And this is the dumb one. This is the dumb one that I hate that people said that's possibly fucking... That it's the possibility. Is that all the Venoms have a hive mind, so they all know that Peter Parker is Venom.
Well, they said...
Or Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Oh, well, that makes... that makes more sense, because that's what they say at the end of Venom 2.
Did they?
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention.
In the after credits
So if that's the case.
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh man, I thought that was a problem this whole time. That actually is. That's true.
What?
Well,
what?
No, at the end, at the after credits scene, he's like in that little hut, and they are talking about what he knows, and he's like, and Venom's like, all of the symbiotes share a hive mind. We have infinite knowledge on everything that's happened in the universe. If I were to even give you a taste of it, it would destroy your feeble mind, Eddie Brock. And then he's like, give me a taste of it.
That's right.
And that's like the that's like that's the red herring, because like he starts freaking out and he's like, what's going on? And Venom's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's when they get teleported into. Yeah.
Okay. So, but that's not the thing I'm pissed about. There's two other things I'm mad about.
I was gonna say there's more to be mad about.
Yeah. So the end credits scene shows Tom Hardy or Eddie Brock, whatever the fuck you want to call him. It shows Eddie Brock at a random, I think he's like probably still in Mexico, talking with some guy. And I will admit, the dialogue's super funny. I think it's funny.
Well, I think
but it's just because I like.
I think it's
yeah,
way
it's
more
really good.
akin to what would actually happen. I think more people would
Yeah.
just be confused and they'd be like, what is happening?
Exactly. So the moment that they're like, all right, let's go find the spider guy, my brain's like, oh, finally, I get to see this Venom, like an actual Venom person, not the last Eddie Brock, who he's good in his own right, but not nearly as like threatening or like more to character than this one is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see a more goofy character fighting Spider-Man. And then as soon as they're about to go, they get taken back. And I'm like, no! I did not sit through fucking Venom 2 to be cucked by Marvel. I am livid.
Clearly you did.
And the best part about this is... The best part about this is Venom leaves behind a little bit of a symbiote. But that doesn't work because the plot of the movie specifically points out that everyone who knows who Spider-Man is left. Because he left before the other spell was cast, then that means no Venom should be on this planet. Because that Venom, that symbiote knows who Peter Parker is.
Yeah. Unless...
So how is that...
Unless
what?
Unless they want to pull something like that little piece doesn't have the information. It hasn't like...
Both! He already established that all of them are connected to a hive mind.
I know.
Like, he's already established
They'd have to retcon
so
that.
That's a load of... Exactly! But they set that up in the other movie with Venom in it. So they have to retcon the fact that Venom said something and that is incorrect. But it's not, because how else would Venom be there in that scene? Because if that's the case, then he didn't know who Peter Parker would be, so he has no reason to go there.
Yeah, you're right. You can't have it both
for that to happen. Exactly, it's fucking bullshit.
Well, that's funny.
There's no reason for the symbiote to be there, but they put him there.
Yeah, it's like a little teaser. Do you think they just forget about it? It never gets used for anything.
There's 3 fucking problems with this one end credits scene. How do you do that? How do you fuck that up so hard?
The only thing that end credit scene does for us is tells us that there might be other characters here who just haven't surfaced because, you know, why would they?
No, this scene is supposedly happening at the same time at the end of the film.
Right. No,
so
that's my point. Eddie just
back.
avoided detection the whole time. There could be other people who knew that Peter Parker was Spider-Man on our Earth now who just aren't surfacing because why would they? Because they don't need to.
But how are they there? How are they still there?
Oh, they wouldn't be. They would go away with the second spell.
Exactly. So what's the point of me caring about those characters now?
Oh, there isn't. It's just to hand wave away that there are other people who know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man who could have gotten teleported as well, but it just doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. I sat through there going, oh man, maybe there'll be a mistake. Maybe Doctor Strange would get the spell wrong again, or like something fucked up, right?
Right.
Like, yeah, you're right. The spell's stupid, so maybe there's some problems with the spell. It couldn't get rid of everyone.
Right.
But no. If Eddie Brock had stayed, that would show that the spell doesn't completely work.
Yep.
And that would at least show that it wouldn't be as powerful as we think it is.
That would just be frustrating if it worked on everybody except one guy. It would just be like, seriously?
Well, I would say it shows that like some people still know. You know what I'm saying? But they don't care.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that... Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
Like, people know who Peter Parker is, but they'd be like, oh, he's just some kid. Like, he's just some fucking nobody. You know? But that's an entirely, like, even still, I'm fucking pissed. I sat through fucking Venom 2 with this fucker, and it was for nothing, for no payoff.
Cole didn't really like Venom 2, everyone.
I did not like Venom 2. The fact that, like, the fucking chief police, like, we need to go find Carnage, and then 3 minutes later, he finds Carnage in, like, the next scene he's in. It's just so fucking dumb. The whole pacing of that thing's so dumb. Like, the fact that Woody Allen's girlfriend gets kidnapped the same day he gives her a ring, and, like, there's no fucking
literal minutes
build
later.
up with them. Yeah, like, not even a minute later. He gives them the ring, and they go, they're taking me away. And I'm like, what the... Who? What's happening? Who are you?
They're taking me away, baby. They can't do that.
Oh, but they did. They literally just did.
Yeah, like I said, we got 5 minutes into that movie, and I was streaming it, and I had to buffer. So I was like, okay, take this time to talk amongst yourselves. And they're like, let's discuss what happened so far. And I'm like, oh? Well, this should be fun.
Yeah. The fact that fucking Carnage can hack to learn the location of a secret underground facility that nobody knows about.
Yeah.
Not even the police
just
of the area.
plugs into a laptop.
Yeah. Like, yeah, even just the fact that Carnage just plugs into a laptop to hack it. Like, go fuck yourself.
I am Carnage.
Actually go fuck yourself.
I am proficient in USB-C.
God, what a fucking waste of time. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna rate this. I'm gonna rate. Wait, actually, we should probably say it. We're gonna.
Oh yeah,
do
let's do a little rating action.
Sorry, James. Did you want to say anything about the ending? About the post credit?
About the first credit?
Anything?
No, I think all of my thoughts on it have gotten out. A little bit of symbiote got left. We'll see what happens.
And then the fucking end credit scene is just a fucking.
Oh, it's just a trailer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super
I want to point out that actually this was a clever homage to the Amazing Spider-Man 2, where that movie's end credit scenes was also a trailer. You're just too dumb to realize that.
Oh.
God, I wish someone made that argument. That'd be fucking hilarious. Like, no, it's actually really clever.
They had this in mind.
Yeah, this was planned.
Yeah, ridiculous.
What a fucking waste of time. All right. Are you all good? Are we all good?
I'm good. I'm good if you're good.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. Here's our ratings. James, you go first.
I am gonna rate this. Objectively, it is a sinister 3 out of 6, but emotionally, a sinister 5 out of 6.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. That was very clever.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm gonna rate this. Personally, I'm gonna rate this 5. I'm gonna rate this 5 Venom 2 Let There Be Carnages out of 7. Venom 2 Let There Be Carnages.
That sounds good. I'd like to
yeah.
propose a second rating.
Go for it.
Objectively, this is a Spider-Man 3 pumpkin bomb, but subjectively, it is a Spider-Man 1 turning people into skeletons pumpkin bomb.
But we have the new rating we have to also do. Is this better than the Mulan remake?
Yeah, this is in fact better than the Mulan remake.
I'm glad we can agree on that.
Me
okay, before we go any farther, we'd like to thank you all for listening to this episode of Two Broken Thumbs.
Yeah, good job if you made it this far. Glad you stuck around. Hope you didn't listen to it all at once.
Comment. Yeah, if you didn't listen to it all at once, how about you go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. And when you leave a comment, say, fuck you guys, you just don't understand anything good about film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? If there's something important we missed, mention that as well. This movie was dense, so I'm sure there's plenty.
We'll either I or James will respond to you. Most likely James. I'll just send all the hate his way.
Yeah, it sounds good to me. I'll deal with it.
Yeah. So, thank you all, and I will see you guys next time.
See you next time.